Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, fill in the blank and choose the correct option. Here category mango, housefly and cat is given, and in category 1 class, order, family is given. Mango blank A is given, Sapindales is order, family is blank B is given. And if in come to the housefly, class insect is given, order blank C is given, and family Mucidae is given. If we come to the cat, class blank D is given, order carnivore, and family blank E is given. Here the options are: option number 1 A dicotyledone, B Anacardiaceae, C Diptera. Option 2 B Solanaceae, C Primata, D Phallidae. Option 3 A dicotyledone, B D Diptera, E Phallidae. Option 4 A dicotyledone, C Mucidae, E Canidae. So which option here is the correct one? If we come to the mango, we know that class of mango, we know that student, class of mango, class is, it is dicotyledone, which is the class of the mango, dicotyledone. So A will represent, it will represent the dicotyledone student. Now B, mango, same mango, and we know that student, family of the mango comes to the family, it is Anacardiaceae. It is Anacardiaceae. So B is represent, it will represent Anacardiaceae. Now C student, C is housefly. And we know that the order of the housefly, it is Diptera. So C will represent a student, it will represent Diptera. Now here we find options. Let us look. A dicotyledone, in option 1, option 3 and option 4. Now B Anacardiaceae in only option number 1, and C is Diptera. Here C is Diptera, as we have to pick the correct option. Option number 1 is the correct one. But for the reference of this question, student, come to the NCERT side, and here we find on page number 11 of NCERT of chapter Living World. Here it is mentioned, student, that mango family is Anacardiaceae. Here it is mentioned. Class is dicotyledone. Here it is mentioned. And if we come to the housefly student, here it is mentioned. Order is Diptera. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find correct answer, student, it is option number 1. Thank you.
Now student, let's see this question. Here the two statements are given, and you have to select whether the one statement is true, second is false, and there are so many options are given. Now let's read statement number 1. Question of virus. Viruses that infects plants have single stranded RNA, and viruses that infects animal have either single or double stranded RNA or double stranded DNA. Overall, Overall student, virus is something which always acts on the borderline of living and non-living. Means virus is a microscopic organism. If virus is living outside the body of an organism, means not getting any host, not able to derive any kind of nutrition, the virus considered as a non-living organism. But when virus suppose enters in my body, then my body is blessed with blood, which is full of nutrition. My body has intestine, which has nutrition. That virus can go inside the liver. Liver is a chemical factory of our body, so lots of food is present there. Virus can fetch food from liver also. So inside the body it is considered as living. So lies on the borderline of living and non-living. Okay, borderline of living and non-living. Fine, borderline of living and non-living. Now bacterial viruses, suppose bacterial viruses or bacteriophage are usually single-stranded RNA virus, means the virus infecting bacteria, Okay, now again DNA RNA is actually depicting the genetic material of virus. DNA is a deoxyribonucleic acid and RNA is a ribonucleic acid. Now it derives from NCERT. Okay, it derives from NCERT. It is given on page number 27. Sorry, the pages got scrolled by mistake. Okay, page number 27. Page number 27. See this line very carefully. Derived from line of NCERT. In general, viruses that infect plants have single-stranded RNA. Single-stranded means this strand RNA, single-stranded. Okay, and viruses that infect animals, means plants and animals both are living beings, so virus can enter any one of the body, have either single or double-stranded RNA. Single or double-stranded RNA or double-stranded DNA. Okay, double-stranded DNA. So according to this condition is completely true. Now bacterial viruses or bacteriophages, viruses that infect the bacteria, are usually double-stranded DNA. So get back to the question, here it is single-stranded. So overall the option will be option number 1. Statement number 1 is true and statement number 2 is completely false. Thank you so much.
Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, which of the following algae contains mannitol as reserve food material? Option number 1 Ectocarpus, option number 2 Gracilaria, option number 3 Volvox, and option number 4 Eulothrix. So which option here is the correct one? Now student, here we are talking about the reserve food material, which is mannitol. We know that mannitol is the reserve food material in Phaeophyceae. And we know that student Phaeophyceae, it is called brown algae. It is called brown algae. And we know that student, out of the following, Ectocarpus is an example of Phaeophyceae. So example of the Ectocarpus, it is Phaeophyceae, which is brown algae. And the reference of this question, student, come from the NCERT page number 33. So student, here we come to the NCERT page number 33. Here it is mentioned, student, that mannitol is the reserve food material. It is in Phaeophyceae. So here it is mentioned, and we know that the familiar example of the Phaeophyceae, if we come down to the page, here it is mentioned on Phaeophyceae. Here it is mentioned, student, that Ectocarpus, Dictyota, Laminaria, Sargassum, Fucus, these all are the example of Phaeophyceae. Here it is mentioned. So for the correct answer, student, back to the question, and here we find correct answer, student, it is option number 1. Thank you.
Moving on to our next question, the sporophyte, a diploid plant body, is not free living but attached to the photosynthetic gametophyte, that is a haploid body. Above statement is related with Bryophyta, a division of plant kingdom. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 29. So here we can see the sporophyte is not free living but attached to the photosynthetic gametophyte and derives nourishment from it. Going back to our question, and that's why Bryophyte do have haplodiplontic life cycle, but here we can say the dominant plant body is gametophyte. So the correct answer for this question will be option number 1. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question, and question here is, the stored food is very similar to amylopectin and glycogen in structure, is characteristic feature of which of the given algae? Here option number 1 Polysiphonia, option number 2 Fucus, option number 3 Laminaria, and option number 4 Eulothrix. So student, the feature given is the characteristics of the class of the algae. It is Rhodophyceae, student, Rhodophyceae. And in the above cited example, Polysiphonia represent the example of Rhodophyceae. Polysiphonia. So it is the correct one. And the reference of this question, student, comes from the NCERT. So here we come to NCERT, student, and we come to NCERT page number 27, and we come to the topic Rhodophyceae. So student, here our topic Rhodophyceae, and here it is mentioned the food is stored as Floridian starch, which is very similar to amylopectin and glycogen in structure. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student. It is option number 1. Thank you. Now student, let us come to the next question, and question here is match the following items with column 1 and column 2. So column 1 and column 2 is given, we have to match. A, mycorrhiza. Mycorrhiza is matching, it is matching with student Pinus. So I am writing here, it is matching with Pinus, that is 4. Now corelloid root, student, corelloid root is matching, it is matching with Cycas. So B is matching, it is matching with 2. Now heterospory, student, heterospory seen in Selaginella and Salvinia. So C is matching, it is matching with 3. And Protonema stages, it is seen in 1, Mosses. So corelloid root 2, heterospory 3. So 4, 2, 3, 1. So 4, A is 4, B is 2, C is 3, and D is 1. It is in option 2. And the reference of this question comes, student, it comes from NCERT textbook page number 30. Here we can see Mosses, and here we can see the first stage is the Protonema stages. And if we come to page number 32 for further references of this question, student, here we can see roots in some genera have fungal association in the form of mycorrhiza pinus, while in some other cycas, small specialized roots corelloid roots are associated with nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria. Here it is mentioned. And if we come to the Pteridophyta, heterospory or heterosporus, here we can see general like Selaginella and Salvinia, which produce two kinds of spore, macro and microspores, are known as heterosporus. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find correct answer, student, it is option number 2. Thank you.
Let's see our next question. Which statement is incorrect for animals belonging to the class Osteichthyes? Let's go to our NCERT for this and see on page number, here we can see on page number 57. So this is class Osteichthyes. It includes both marine and freshwater fishes with bony endoskeleton. Let's go back to our question. The presence of cycloid or ctenoid scales, it is absolutely correct. So here we can see cycloid or ctenoid scales are present. Then both marine and freshwater forms with bony endoskeleton, that we just have read about it. Mouth, terminal and gills covered by operculum, this is also correct. Notochord is persistent only at larval stage. After that it disappears. No. Let's go to our NCERT, and here we can see that notochord persists in them throughout the life, and that's why they are being included in the, we can say, chordate categories, and that's why it is a wrong statement. So the correct answer for this question is option number 4. Thank you. Our next question is match the following list of animals with their level of organization. So here we can see organ level is present in Fasciola, that is second. If we talk about cellular aggregation is found in Spongilla, so the correct match is third. Tissue level organization is found in Obelia, that is fourth, and finally organ system level is found in Pheretima. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 46 and 47, that cellular level of organization is found in some of the organism like in sponges. Then if we talk about tissue level, so here we can see that tissue level of organization is found in coelentrates, and if we talk about organ level is found in by members of Platyhelminthes and other higher phyla. And if we talk about animals like annelids, arthropods, mollusks, echinoderms and chordates, organs have associated to form functional system, each system concerned with a specific physiological function, and this pattern is called organ system level of organization. Let's go back to our question. So the correct sequence is 2, 3, 4, 1, which is present in option number 1. So the correct answer is option number 1. Thank you. Let's see our next question. Statement 1 says, Hemichordata, that are between the chordates and non-chordates, and these were termed like this, that is Hemichordata, consist of a small group of worm-like marine animals with tissue level of organization. No, everything is correct except this tissue, that is should be organ level of organization. So this is the wrong statement. Statement second says that in Hemichordata, body is cylindrical and is composed of an anterior proboscis, a collar and a long trunk. Yes, exactly. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 45. Here we can see this phylum Hemichordata. So Hemichordata was earlier considered as a subphylum under phylum Chordata, but now it is placed as a separate phylum under non-Chordata, that is Hemichordates. So here we can see that this phylum consists of a small group of worm-like marine animals with organ system level of organization first of all, and then the body is cylindrical and is composed of an anterior proboscis, a collar and a long trunk. Let's go back to our questions. So the correct answer for this question is that statement 1 is incorrect and statement 2 is correct, that is option number 3. Thank you. Let's move on to our next question. In which of the following options characteristic features hold false for the corresponding group of animals? So let's see, these are the classes of, we can say, vertebrates, and so here we can see the reptilia. Let's go on to our NCERT and see this on page number 49. Here we can see the reptilia, class reptilia. They are mostly terrestrial animals and their body is covered by dry and cornified skin, epidermal scales or scutes. Going back to our question, so body is covered by dry and cornified skin. This is the correct match. Aves, that includes all the birds present on this earth. So forelimbs always modified into functional wings for flight. This always doesn't actually hold good for the statement. Let's see, in aves, so they possess beak, the forelimbs are modified into wings, but not always. Let's go back to our question. So this always makes this statement incorrect. Mammalia, presence of milk producing glands. Yes, exactly, that's why they are known as mammals, or they are named as mammals. So let's see this. The most unique mammalian characteristics is the presence of milk producing glands, that is mammary glands, by which the young ones are nourished. Going back to our question, so this is also a correct match. Amphibia, poikilotherms, that is cold-blooded animals, cold-blooded animals with 3-chambered head. This is also a correct statement or a correct match. Let's go to class Amphibia of the vertebrates, and here we can see what feature they possess. So here it is, the heart is 3-chambered, 2 auricles and 1 ventricle. These are cold-blooded animals, that means they are poikilotherms. So we can say that the correct answer for this question will be option number 2. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, the characteristics of monocotyledons are Option number 1, fibrous root system, parallel venation, trimerous flowers and 2 cotyledons. Option number 2, fibrous root system, reticulate venation, trimerous flower and 1 cotyledon. And option number 3, fibrous root system, parallel venation, trimerous flowers and 1 cotyledon. And option number 4, taproot system, parallel venation, trimerous flowers and 1 cotyledon. So which option here is the correct one if we are talking about the monocotyledons, students? Monocotyledons. So here we are talking about monocotyledons, and what are the characteristics? We know that in monocotyledons, the root system which is present, it is fibrous root system. It is fibrous root system, and we all know the venation which is present in monocotyledons, it is called parallel venation, student. Parallel venation is present in monocotyledons, while in dicot it is reticulate venation is present. Now another characteristics, the flower is trimerous, student, in monocotyledons. And if we are talking about flower, it is trimerous, and number of the cotyledons which is present in monocotyledon, it is 1 cotyledon, while in dicotyledonous it is 2 cotyledon is present. So in monocotyledon 1 cotyledon is present. So that are the characteristics. And the reference of this question comes, student, it comes from the NCERT page number 66, fibrous root system. Here we come to the topic fibrous root system as seen in the wheat plant, and we all know wheat plant belongs to the monocotyledon. So here it is mentioned, and if we come to the page number 70, here it is also mentioned, student. If we come to the venation side, page number 70. Here it is mentioned venation. When the veins run parallel to each other within a lamina, the venation is termed as parallel. Leaves of dicotyledonous plant is generally reticulate venation, while parallel venation is the characteristics of most monocotyledons. Here it is mentioned. And if we come to the trimerous flower, it comes in the Liliaceae, the flowers are trimerous, and if we come to the number of the cotyledon, it is seen in the topic seed. So for the correct answer, student, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student, it is option number 3. Thank you.
Let's see our next question. Match the following columns and select the correct option with respect to placentation. So first of all, let's see in our NCERT on page number 75 that what is placentation. So the arrangement of ovules within the ovary is known as placentation. Going back to our question, column 1 is having different types of placentation, while column 2 is having their examples. So marginal type of placentation, where ovules are present something like this, in this manner, and this is a type of marginal placentation which is present in P. So let's see here in our NCERT, in marginal placentation, the placenta forms a ridge along the ventral suture of the ovary, and the ovules are borne on this ridge, forming 2 rows as in P. So here we can see the diagram, and this is a diagram of P where marginal type of placentation is present. So the correct match for marginal will be option number 3, that is P. Free central. So here we can see that free central type of placentation. So what happens in this one, when the ovules are borne on the central axis and septa are absent, as in dianthus and primrose, the placentation is known as free central, as we can see in this type. So this is the diagram of free central without any septa. So the correct match will be option number 4, that is primrose. Axial type of placentation. So here we can see axial type of placentation. So when the placenta is axial and the ovules are attached to it in a multilocular, that is many chambers, ovary, the placentation is said to be axial, as in China rose, tomato and lemon. So here we can see what type of diagram will you find in this type of, we can say, so this is a type of we can say exile type of placentation, and its example is lemon. That is, first parietal type of placentation is something like this, where ovules are present on the inner side of the wall or on the peripheral part, something like this, and it is found in mustard. Let's go to our NCERT back and see. So this is a type of parietal type of placentation, and here we can see the example and definition of parietal placentation. The ovules are developed on the inner wall of the ovary or on peripheral part. Ovary is one chambered, but it becomes two chambered due to the formation of the false septum. Example includes mustard and argemone. Going back to our question, so the correct sequence will be 3, 4, 1, 2. That is option number 4. So the correct answer for this question is option number 4. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question, and question here is, read the following statements for anatomy of isobilateral leaf and choose the incorrect statement. 1. In an isobilateral leaf, the stomata present on both the surface of the epidermis. 2. The mesophyll is differentiated into palisade and spongy parenchyma. 3. In grasses, certain adaxial epidermal cells along the veins modify themselves into large empty colorless cells. 4. When the bulliform cells in the leaves have absorbed water and are turgid, the leaf surface is exposed. Here the options are option number 1, 1 and 3, option number 2, 2 and 4, option number 3, only 2, and option number 4, only 4. So which is the correct one? So come to statement 1. Here it is mentioned that in isobilateral leaf, the stomata are present on both the surfaces of the epidermis. It is correct one, student. If we come to statement 2, the mesophyll is differentiated. This is incorrect, student, because we know that the mesophyll is not differentiated into palisade and spongy parenchyma in isobilateral leaf, or we also call monocotyledonous leaf. So statement 2 here is incorrect. Statement 3. In isobilateral leaf, in grasses, certain adaxial epidermal cells along the veins modify themselves into large empty colorless cells, which is called bulliform cells. This is being correct one. Statement 4. When the bulliform cells in the leaves have absorbed water and turgid, the leaf surface is exposed. This is also being the correct one, student. So here we have to select the incorrect statement. So only one statement is incorrect, that is statement 2. So here we find option number 3 will be the correct answer. But before this, student, come to the NCERT site for the reference of this question. And here we come to isobilateral leaf, student, which is also called monocotyledonous leaf on the NCERT textbook page number 77. So here we come to isobilateral or monocotyledonous leaf, and here it is mentioned, student, that it shows the following characteristic differences. In an isobilateral leaf, the stomata present on both the surface of the epidermis, and the mesophyll is not differentiated into palisade and spongy parenchyma. In grasses, certain adaxial epidermal cells along the veins modify themselves into large empty colorless cells. These are called bulliform cells. When the bulliform cells in the leaves have absorbed water and are turgid, the leaf surface is exposed. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student, for this question. It is option number 3. Thank you. Now student, let us come to the next question, and question here is, assertion syngenesious condition is a characteristic feature of composite. It is correct, student, that syngenesious condition, which is a characteristic of feature of composite. It is correct one. Now if we come to reason, stamens are united by their anthers. So when stamens are united by their anthers, it is called syngenesious condition only, and filament should remaining free. It is also being correct one. Here we can see both assertion and reason is correct, and reason is the correct explanation of assertion. So here we find the correct answer, student. It is option number 1. Thank you.
So our next question is, identify the given figure and select the correct option about it. So this figure is about Collenchyma. And here we can see it occurs in layers below the epidermis and stem of dicot plants. Yes, the layer below the epidermis is known as, so the outermost layer is known as epidermis, and below it is hypodermis. that is the initial layers of cortex, and this is made up of Collenchyma in dicot plants. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 86. There here it is Collenchyma, occurs in layers below the epidermis in most of the dicot plants. Let's go back to our question. So the correct answer for this question is option number 1. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, anatomy of a plant organ was observed. It shows presence of protoxylem towards center and metaxylems towards periphery of organ. Cambium is present between xylem and phloem. The plant organ is option number 1 dicot root, option number 2 monocot root, option number 3 monocot stem, and option number 4 dicot stem. So which option here is the correct one if we are talking about the protoxylem? And we know that student, protoxylem is present towards the center. It is present towards the center, and metaxylem present towards the periphery. Metaxylem, it should present towards the periphery. And another characteristic which is given in the question, it is cambium. Cambium is present. Cambium is present in between xylem and phloem. Cambium is present in between xylem and phloem, and hence the vascular bundle, it is called open vascular bundle, in which cambium is present between xylem and phloem. And the above characteristics, it should belong to the plant organ, which is dicot stem. And the reference of this question, student, comes from the NCERT page number 87. So student, here we come to the NCERT page number 87, and here it is mentioned that student, that in stems the protoxylem lies towards the center, that is pith, and the metaxylem lies towards the periphery of the organ. This type of primary xylem is called endarch. Here it is mentioned, student. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student. It is option number 4. Thank you.
Let's move on to our next question. Which of the following contains the largest quantity of extracellular materials? So that is areolar connective tissue. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 103, that loose connective tissue has cells and fibers loosely arranged in a semi-fluid ground substance. For example, areolar tissue present beneath the skin. Often it serves as a support framework for epithelium. It contains fibroblast cells that produce and secrete fibers, macrophages and mast cells. So let's go back to our question. So the correct answer for this question is option number 2. Thank you. Let's move on to our next question. Match the terms given in column 1 with their feature given in column 2 and choose the correct option. So let's see what are the terms given in column 1. Exocrine glands. So exocrine glands are the glands in which their secretions are secreted into the ducts. For example, here we can say that secretes mucus, saliva, earwax, oil, milk, digestive enzymes and other cell products which are secreted into the ducts which they have. So the correct match will be 4th. Let's go to our NCERT and see this. What are exocrine glands? On the page number 102, here it is. Exocrine glands secrete mucus, saliva, earwax, oil, milk, digestive enzymes and other cell products. These products are released through ducts or tubes. Going back to our question. Now, second is endocrine glands which do not have ducts. These are ductless glands. So, they secrete hormones which are secreted directly into the fluid, bathing the gland. So, the correct match will be option number 2. Going back to our NCERT, and here we can see that endocrine glands do not have ducts. Their products called hormones are secreted directly into the fluid, bathing the gland. Going back to our question, third one is tight junctions. So what are tight junctions? They help to stop substances from leaking across a tissue. That is represented by their name, that is tight junction. So first is the correct match. let's go back to our NCERT and see these type of junctions given here help to stop substances from leaking across the tissue. And finally, the adhering junctions, they perform cementing to keep neighboring cells together. So the third is the correct match. Yes, adhering junctions adhere, that means to attach, perform cementing to keep neighboring cells together. Going back to our question, so here we can say the correct match will be 4213, 4213 given in option number 1. So the correct answer for this question will be option number 1. Thank you. Let's move on to our next question. Match the column 1 with column 2 correctly. So column 1 is having various types of cells and organisms, while column 2 is having their size. Let's see typical bacteria. So if we talk about the typical bacteria, then it is of size 1 to 2 micrometer. So the correct match will be B. If we talk about viruses, the smallest, we can say, not cell or cellular organisms, but yeah, smallest one. So here we can see, if we talk about the viruses, they are 0.02 to 0.2 micrometers. So the correct match will be D. If we talk about PPLO, that is pleuropneumonia like organisms, which also belongs to the, we can say, kingdom Monera, and Mycoplasma is one of them. So the correct match for it will be C, that is 0.1 micrometer. And if we talk about typical eukaryotic cell, then it will be of 10 to 20 micrometer, that is A. So BDCA is the correct match, and the correct answer is option number 1. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 128. Typical bacteria is 1 to 2 micrometer, PPLO 0.1 micrometer, PPLO is 0.1 micrometer. If we talk about viruses, 0.02 to 0.2 micrometer, typically eukaryotic cell is 10 to 20 micrometer. So the correct answer for this question is option number 1. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, the usual axonemal arrangement of microtubules is option number 1, 6 pairs of doublets radially arranged at periphery with a pair of centrally located microtubules. Option number 2, 6 pairs of doublets radially arranged at periphery with a single centrally located microtubule. Option number 3, 9 pairs of doublets radially arranged at periphery with a pair of centrally located microtubules. And option number 4, 9 pairs of doublets radially arranged at periphery with a single centrally located microtubule. So which option here is the correct one? If we are talking about the arrangement of microtubules, student, we are talking actually about the arrangement of microtubules. And we know that, student, if we are talking about the cilia and flagella, if we are talking about cilia and flagella, the arrangement of microtubule, it is 9 plus 2 arrangement. That means 9 microtubules are present towards the periphery, which is the doublet, and 2 microtubules are present in the center. It is doublet, it is 2 microtubules, which is a pair. But if we are talking about the centriole, the arrangement of microtubule, it is not 9 plus 2, it is 9 plus 0. That means 9 microtubules are present at the periphery, but none of the microtubules are present centrally. So for the reference of this question, student, it come to the NCERT page number 137. This is the figure of the cilia and flagella. Here we count number of the microtubule which is present at the periphery. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we can say 9 microtubules are present. It is present towards the periphery. So it is called periphery microtubules, and it is doublets. Why it is called doublets? Because there is a pairing of the two. So it is called doublets. And if we see, there is 2 microtubules are present, and it is central microtubules, and in we see there will be the 2 microtubules are present in the center. So here we get our answer, and for the answer, back to the question. Here correct answer, student, it is option number 3, 9 pairs of doublet radially arranged at the periphery with a pair of centrally located microtubule. Here the correct answer, student, option number 3. Thank you.
Hello dear students, let's move on to our next question that says, identify the correct match between types of chromosomes and their position of centromere. So on the basis of position of centromere, we do have 4 types of chromosomes, that are metacentric, submetacentric, telocentric and acrocentric. So metacentric is the chromosome in which the position of centromere is at the middle. So the correct match will be third. Submetacentric means slightly away from the middle, that is fourth. Telocentric, that means at the end. And acrocentric means almost near the end, that is second. So let's go to our NCERT new one and see all these type of chromosomes on page number 101. Here we can see metacentric where middle centromere, submetacentric slightly away from the middle, acrocentric means close to its end, and telocentric means terminal centromere. Going back to our question, so here we can see 3, 4, 1, 2 is the correct sequence or match. So the correct answer for this question will be option number 4. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, how many total carbons are found in palmitic acid? We know that student, the total number of carbon in palmitic acid, the total number of carbons in palmitic acid is 16, and the reference of this question comes student, it come from the NCERT page number 144. So student, here we come to the NCERT page number 144, and here we find that palmitic acid has 16 carbons including carboxyl carbon. Here it is mentioned students. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find correct answer student, it is option number 2. Thank you. Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, all the elements present in a sample of earth crust are also present in a sample of living tissue, but which of the following element is higher in any living organism than in earth crust? Here the options are option number 1, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon and silicon. Option number 2, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen and silicon. Option number 3, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen and sulfur. And option number 4, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, sulfur and sodium. So which option here is the correct one? We know that student, if we are talking about the element present in sample of earth crust and also present in a sample of living tissue, that means we are talking about the non-living and living one. But which of the following element is higher in any living organisms? That means we are talking about the living. Then the earth crust, that means non-living. So the element which is present in living organism or higher in living organisms than that of the earth crust, it is hydrogen, it is oxygen, it is carbon, it is nitrogen and it is sulfur. So the element which is higher in any living tissue than that of the earth crust, it is hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, sulfur. And the reference of this question student come from the NCERT page number 143. So student, here the table is given on the page number 143 in between the comparison of element present in non-living and living matter, and here it is mentioned that hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur. We are talking about these 5 elements. Clear? If we are talking about the earth crust which is non-living, and we are talking about the human body which is the living tissue. So hydrogen, it is 0.14, whereas in human body it is 0.5%. Carbon in earth crust it is 0.03, it is 18.5 in human body. Oxygen 46.6 in earth crust, 65% in human body. Nitrogen very little, whereas human body it is 3.3%. Sulfur 0.03%, 0.3 in human body. So here we see that this all 5 element is present higher in human body than that of the earth crust. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer student, it is option number 3. Thank you.
Moving on to our next question. Statement 1 says proteinaceous enzymes which are proteinaceous in nature. We are talking about those enzymes, and as we all know that the first line given by our NCERT is that almost all the enzymes are proteins. Almost, not all the enzymes, because there are some nucleic acids that behave like enzymes and which are known as ribozymes. That's why we cannot say that all enzymes are proteinaceous, but almost, nearly all enzymes are proteinaceous in nature. So these enzymes exhibit substrate specificity and require optimum temperature and pH for maximal activity. Yes, exactly. Statement second says inorganic catalysts work efficiently at high temperatures and high pressures, while most enzymes get damaged at certain high temperature. As they are proteinaceous in nature, so their structure will get degraded by high temperature, and that's why they cannot, most of the enzymes get damaged and cannot work or function at certain high temperature. So yes, statement second is also correct. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 113. So here we can see that inorganic catalysts work efficiently at high temperatures and high pressures, while enzymes get damaged at high temperatures, say above 40 degrees Celsius, and they will work optimally or efficiently at their optimum temperature and optimum pH conditions. While, however, enzymes isolated from organisms who normally live under extremely high temperatures, like example hot winds and sulfur springs, are stable and retain their catalytic power even at high temperature, that is up to 80 to 90 degrees Celsius. And an example of these type of enzymes is Thermus aquaticus. Thermus aquaticus, which is also known as TAC. So here both the statement first and second are correct. So the correct answer for this question will be option number 1. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, a stage of mitosis is shown in the diagram. Which stage is it and what are its characteristics? Here options are option number 1, late prophase, chromosomes move to spindle equator. Option number 2, metaphase, spindle fiber attached to kinetochores, centromeres split and chromatids separate. Option number 3, metaphase, chromosome move to spindle equator, chromosomes made up of 2 sister chromatids. And option number 4, anaphase, centromere split and chromatids separate and start moving away. So which option here is the correct one? Now if we are talking about the figure which is asked in the question, we know that the given figure will represent the figure of the metaphase. I am writing here student, the given figure will represent the figure of the metaphase. And what are its characteristics, student? We know that student, if we see the figure, the chromosome aligned at the equator. That is the characteristics of the metaphase stage, that the chromosome should align at the equator. So this is the stage of the metaphase which is characterized by these events. And the reference of this question, student, come from the NCERT page number 165. And here we come to the NCERT page number 165, and we are talking about the topic metaphase. And here it is clearly mentioned, student, that chromosomes are moved to spindle equator and get aligned along metaphase plate through spindle fibers to both poles. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student. It is option number 3. Thank you. Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, read the following statements and select the correct option. Here the statement 1. During diakinesis, the chromosomes are fully condensed and the meiotic spindle is assembled to prepare the homologous chromosome for separation. Statement 2. By the end of diakinesis, the nucleolus disappear and the nuclear envelope also break down. Here the options are option number 1. Both statement 1 and 2 are correct. Option number 2, statement 1 is correct but statement 2 is incorrect. Option number 3, statement 1 is incorrect but statement 2 is correct. And option number 4, both statement 1 and statement 2 are incorrect. So which option here is the correct one? So move to the statement 1. What is the statement 1? Statement 1. we know that, student, if we are talking about the diakinesis, what will happen during the diakinesis? We know during the diakinesis the chromosomes are fully condensed and the meiotic spindle is assembled to prepare the homologous chromosome for the separation. That means that statement 1 is the characteristics of the diakinesis, or we can say it is the event of the diakinesis. So here statement 1 is the correct one. But if we come to the statement 2, we know that what will happen during the end of the diakinesis. We know that the nucleolus disappear and the nuclear envelope should break down. That means statement 2 is also the event which occur in the diakinesis. So we can say both statement 1 and statement 2 here are the correct one. And the reference of this question, student, come from the NCERT page number 168, and we are talking about the stage that is diakinesis. And here it is mentioned that the final stage of meiotic prophase 1 is diakinesis. During this phase, the chromosomes are fully condensed and the meiotic spindle is assembled to prepare the homologous chromosome for separation. Here it is mentioned. By the end of diakinesis, the nucleolus disappear and the nuclear envelope also breaks down. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student. It is option number 1. Thank you.
Moving on to our next question, match column 1 with column 2 with respect to stages of prophase 1. So prophase 1 is actually the first substage of meiosis I, and here we can see that prophase 1 is divided further into 5 substages. That includes leptotene, then zygotene, then pachytene, diplotene, and finally, and the last one, diakinesis. So here we can say that these are the 5 substages of prophase 1 of meiosis I, during which crossing over and recombination takes place, and it is the main stage where genetic material exchange takes place and variations comes in the next progenies. So here we can say that leptotene, that is the first substage of prophase 1, and during this leptotene, what happens? Condensation and coiling of chromatin fibers occurs. So the correct match will be option number 4. Zygotene, which is the second substage of prophase 1, includes synapsis, that is pairing of homologous chromosomes. So in synapsis, what actually is occurring? Pairing of homologous chromosomes. Then pachytene is the third substage of prophase 1, and during this stage the main process, that is crossing over and recombination, takes place, that is the second. And while diplotene is the fourth substage, during this desynapsis, that is unpairing of, we can say, homologous chromosomes will take place. So the correct match will be option number 3. So 4, 1, 2, 3 is the correct sequence. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 126. These are the 5 substages of prophase 1, leptotene. So here we can say that the compaction of chromosomes continues throughout leptotene, and this is followed by the second stage of prophase 1 called zygotene. So in this stage, chromosomes start pairing together, and this process of association is called synapsis. Then the third one is pachytene. During this stage, the 4 chromatids of each bivalent chromosomes becomes distinct and clearly appears as tetrads, and this stage is characterized by the appearance of recombination nodules, the sites at which crossing over occurs between non-sister chromatids of the homologous chromosomes. Then next one is diplotene. The beginning of diplotene is recognized by the dissolution of the synaptonemal complex that is formed during synapsis, and the tendency of the recombined homologous chromosomes of the bivalents to separate from each other except at the sites of crossovers. Let's go back to our question. These are the 4 substages. So the correct sequence is 4, 1, 2, 3. So the correct answer for this question will be option number 4th. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, given below is the pathway of light reaction, in which of the following option correct words for all the given blanks indicated by A, B, C, D and E. Here the options are option number 1 A, P700, B, H plus acceptor, C, electron acceptor, D, P680 and E, NADP plus. Option number 2 A, photosystem 2, B, electron acceptor, C, electron transport system, D, photosystem 1, E, NADH plus H plus. Option number 3 A, photosystem 2, B, hydrogen acceptor, C, electron acceptor, D, P780, E, NADPH. And option number 4 A, photosystem 2, B, electron acceptor, C, electron transport system, D, photosystem 1, E, NADPH, which is the correct one. Now student, if you are talking about E, it is represent to PS2, that is photosystem 2. B will represent to electron acceptor, C will represent, student, it will represent to electron ETS, that is electron transport system. And D will represent, student, it will represent to PS1, that is photosystem 1. And E will represent, student, it will represent to NADPH, that is the correct one. A is PA, photosystem 2, it is in option 2, 3 and 4. B is electron acceptor is in 2, option 2 and option 4. C is electron transport system, it is still in 1 and 2 and 4. D, PS1, it is still in 2 and 4, and E is NADPH. So here NADH plus H plus, so it is wrong one, and it is NADPH, so it is the correct one. And the reference of this question, student, comes from the NCERT page number 139. Here Z scheme of light reaction is given, student, Z scheme of light reaction. And if we are talking about A is represent, it is photosystem 2. B will represent, it is electron acceptor. C will represent, it is electron transport system. D will represent, it is photosystem 1, and E will represent, it is NADPH. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer. It is option number 4. Thank you.
Hello everyone, moving on to our next question. Read the following statements with respect to light harvesting complexes, that is LHC. Let's see. Also called as antenna molecules, so this is correct. Have hundreds of pigments bound to a protein, yes. Make photosynthesis more efficient by absorbing similar wavelength of light, no. They all are absorbing different wavelength of light. So let's go to our NCERT and see this. Here on page number 138, here we can see that the pigments are organized into 2 discrete photochemical light harvesting complexes within the photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. Now, the LHC are made up of hundreds of pigments molecules bound to proteins. Each photosystem has all the pigments except one molecule of chlorophyll A, forming a light harvesting system, also called antennae. These pigments help to make photosynthesis more efficient by absorbing different wavelengths of light. Let's go back to our question. So the correct answer will be option number 2, that A and B statements are correct only. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, proton gradient is broken down due to option number 1, movement of electrons across the membrane to stroma. Option number 2, movement of electrons across the membrane to lumen. Option number 3, movement of proton across the membrane to lumen. And option number 4, movement of proton across the membrane to stroma. So which option here is the correct one? We know that, student, the gradient is broken down. The proton gradient is broken down due to the movement of proton across the membrane to the stroma through the transmembrane channel of the CF0 of the ATP synthase. And the reference of this question come student, it come from the NCERT page number 214 and 215. So student, here we come to the NCERT page number 214, and here it is clearly mentioned student that the gradient is broken down due to the movement of protons across the membrane to the stroma through the transmembrane channel of the CF0 of the ATP synthase. Here it is mentioned student. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question. Here we find the correct answer student. It is option number 4. Thank you. Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, complex 2 in electron transport system results in option number 1, oxidation of ubiquinone, option number 2, reduction of ubiquinone, option number 3, oxidation of cytochrome C, and option number 4, reduction of cytochrome C. So which option here is the correct one? We know that student, ubiquinone receive reducing equivalent via FADS2, that is complex 2, that is generated during oxidation of succinate in citric acid cycle. And the reference of this question student comes from the NCERT page number 160. So here on the NCERT page number 160 student, here it is mentioned that ubiquinone also receives reducing equivalents via FADS2, that is complex 2, that is generated during oxidation of succinate in the citric acid cycle. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer student. It is option number 2, that is reduction of ubiquinone. Correct answer option 2. Thank you.
Moving on to our next question, substrate level phosphorylation. So phosphorylation means formation of ATP, and it can be of 3 types, and one of them is substrate level phosphorylation, where a substrate is converted into another substrate, and during this conversion some amount of energy being released which is utilized in the formation of ATP. That is known as substrate level phosphorylation, which can be seen during glycolysis and even in Krebs cycle in one of the reactions. So in TCA occurs when succinyl coenzyme A changes to succinic acid. During this process or during this step of TCA cycle or Krebs cycle, substrate level phosphorylation takes place, and during this phosphorylation one GTP molecule is formed. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 232. So here we can see that during the conversion of succinyl coenzyme A to succinic acid, a molecule of GTP is synthesized. This is a substrate level phosphorylation. Let's go back to our question. So the correct answer for this question is option number 3rd. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, in Krebs cycle, the first product is citric acid, which is a 6 carbon compound. It is formed by condensing irreversible reaction between option number 1 OAA and pyruvic acid, option number 2 OAA and acetyl CoA, option number 3 pyruvic acid and acetyl CoA, and option number 4 OAA and citrate synthase. So which option here is the correct one? Now student, here we are talking about the Krebs cycle. So what will happen student, in Krebs cycle we know that the first stable compound it is formed, it is called the citric acid, which is a 6 carbon compound. Citric acid, the first stable compound of the Krebs cycle, it is citric acid, which is 6 carbon compound. And we know that student, this citric acid form, it is formed by reaction between oxaloacetic acid, oxaloacetic acid, which is a 4 carbon compound student, and it react with acetyl coenzyme A, it react with acetyl coenzyme, A, which is 2 carbon compound. So in that reaction, the first stable compound of Krebs cycle is formed, which is called the citric acid. And the reference of this question student come from the NCERT page number 232. So student, here we come to the NCERT page number 232, and we are talking about the Krebs cycle, which is also known as citric acid cycle. And here it is mentioned student that oxaloacetic acid, which is a 4 carbon compound, it react with the acetyl coenzyme A. So the first stable compound of Krebs cycle, it is citric acid, which is a 6 carbon compound. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer. It is option number 2. Thank you.
Let's see our next question. All are the functions of adenine derivative. So adenine derivative is a phytohormone, that is cytokinin. Except, so there is one function given which is not a function of cytokinin. Promotes nutrient mobilization, yes, exactly. Delays leaf senescence, yes. Accelerates thinning of cotton, cherry and walnut, no. It is a function of ethylene and not cytokinin. Promotes adventitious shoot formation, yes, exactly. So let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 250. First of all, ethylene. So ethylene is actually responsible for it accelerates abscission in flowers and fruits, that is thinning of cotton, cherry and walnut. And if we talk about the cytokinin, so it is actually an adenine derivative. Here we can see that adenine derivatives. So adenine derivatives, that is N6-furfuryl aminopurine or kinetin, that is cytokinin, and the function of cytokinin includes like we can say it helps to produce new leaves, chloroplast in leaves, lateral shoot growth and adventitious shoot formation. Then they promote nutrient mobilization, which helps in the delay of leaf senescence. Going back to our question, so the correct answer for this question will be option number 3. Thank you. Coming on to our next question, which of the following is an example of redifferentiation? So redifferentiation is when actually secondary growth takes place in dicot plants. So the products formed during secondary growth are known as the products of, or are an example of redifferentiation, because they will get mature and differentiate and they will not be able to divide further. So one of the example of redifferentiation given here is secondary cortex formation, which is produced during secondary growth, that is extrastellar secondary growth in dicot plants. Because monocots do not show any type of secondary growth. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 245. So what is redifferentiation? That For example, formation of meristems, interfascicular cambium and core cambium from fully differentiated parenchyma cells is dedifferentiation. While doing so, such meristem tissues are able to divide and produce cells that once again lose the capacity to divide but mature to perform specific function, that is get redifferentiated. And here we can take an example of redifferentiated product is secondary cortex formation. So the correct answer for this question is option number 1. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, match the following. Column 1 is given, column 2 is given. In column 1 A auxin, column 2 1 root hair formation, column 1 B cytokinin, column 2 C dormancy, column 1 C ethylene, column 2 3 xylem differentiation, column 1 D ABA, column 2 4 nutrient mobilization. Here the options are option number 1 A4 B2 C3 D1, option number 2 A2 B3 C1 D4, option number 3 A1 B3 C2 D4, option number 4 A3 B4 C1 D2. So which option here is the correct one? So to get the answer, let us match the items given in column 1 with the column 2 to get the answer. So auxin, if we are talking about the auxin, it is related with the xylem differentiation. That means A is matching, it is matching with 3. So I am writing here, student, A is matching with 3. Now B, cytokinin, we know that student cytokinin, it is related with the nutrient mobilizations. That means B is matching, it is matching with 4. I am writing here B is matching with 4. C, ethylene is related with the root hair formation. That means C is matching, it is matching with 1. D, ABA is abscisic acid and it is related with the C dormancy. That means D is matching, it is matching with 2. Now we get our answer, but for the answer, let us look the option. Where A is 3, A is 3 in option 4, B is 4, C is 1, D is 2. So here we find our answer, but before this, go to the NCERT site for the reference of this question, student. And the reference of this question, student, it will come from the page number 249 and 250 of NCERT. So come to the NCERT site, student, for the reference of this question. Here it is mentioned that auxin help in related with this xylem differentiation. And coming to the next topic, that is cytokinin. So if we come to the cytokinin, here it is mentioned that student cytokinin, here it is mentioned that cytokinin on page number 250, cytokinin help in nutrient or they promote nutrient mobilization. If we come to the next topic, that is ethylene, here it is mentioned that ethylene help in root hair formation. Here it is mentioned that ethylene also promote root growth and root hair formation. And if we come to the abscisic acid ABA, here it is mentioned, student, that ABA, abscisic acid, it will help in seed dormancy. Here it is mentioned, student, that ABA plays an important role in seed development, maturation and dormancy. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find correct answer, student, it is option number 4. Thank you.
Coming on to our next question, assertion says decapitation, that is removal of apical bud, is known as decapitation. So let's go to our NCERT and check this term on page number 175, that what is decapitation, that is removal of shoot tips or apical tips, we can say. So that is known as decapitation, and it is widely used in tea plantations and hedge making. Yes, exactly. Why so? Because this phenomena, that is apical dominance, which is actually the growing apical bud inhibits the growth of lateral or axillary buds, and this phenomenon is known as apical dominance. So to remove this apical dominance phenomena, we have to remove the shoot tips or the apical buds so that the growth of lateral buds can occur. And this phenomenon is used or widely applied in tea plantations, hedge making, etc. So, for the growth of literal buds, we have to do decapitation, and it is widely used in such plantation, that is in tea plantation and hedge making. So, this assertion is correct. Reason says removal of shoot tips usually results in the growth of literal buds. So, reason is also correct and is explaining the assertion correctly. So, we can say that both assertion and reason are true, and reason is the correct explanation of assertion. So, the correct answer for this question will be option number 1. Thank you. Let's see our next question. Assertion says trachea and initial bronchioles are supported by cartilaginous ring. Yes, it is correct. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 269, that the tracheae, primary, secondary and tertiary bronchi and initial bronchioles are supported by incomplete cartilaginous rings. Let's go back to our question. Reason says trachea can collapse during expiration. No, it is incorrect. So, the correct answer will be that if assertion is true but the reason is false. So, the correct answer is option number 3. Thank you.
Hello students, let's discuss this question. The question says identify A, B, C, D in the given diagram. Now, let's discuss this question. This question is the diagrammatic based question. So, A is the inspired air, A is the inspired air and B is the expired air. And B is the expired air. So, A is the inspired air as you clearly seen in the picture. Alright, and B is the expired air. Alright, so A is the inspired air. You can remove option number 3rd and 4. Now, this is the pulmonary artery and this is the pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery always carry deoxygenated blood to the right atrium, and this is the pulmonary vein. And pulmonary vein always carry the oxygenated blood, and this is the systemic arteries, and systemic artery carry oxygenated blood to the various part of the body. Alright, oxygenated blood, and this is the systemic vein, and systemic vein carry deoxygenated blood. Systemic vein carry deoxygenated blood. Alright, deoxygenated blood. Alright, so here C represent the CO2 and D represent the O2. Alright, so A is the inspired air, B is the expired air, C is the CO2 and D is the O2. So the correct answer of this question is option number A. Now let's confirm our answer from your NCERT as well. So here in the picture, and this picture is given on the page number 188, so you can clearly have an idea. So A is the inspired air and this is A is the inspired air, B is the expired air. Alright, and C is the systemic vein, and systemic vein carry deoxygenated blood. Alright, CO2. And this is the D, and D is systemic artery, and systemic artery carries the oxygenated blood. Alright, so the correct answer of this question is, and the correct answer of this question is option number A. I hope you understood this question very well. Best of luck. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Moving on to our next question. Match the following and mark the correct options. So, we do have different type of animal respiratory organs and their examples in which type of organism they are present. So, here we can see column 1 is having some of the different organisms and column 2 is having different type of respiratory organs. Let's see. Now, earthworm. If we talk about earthworm, then moist cuticle or skin. So, the correct match will be A. If we talk about frogs, so moist skin, yes, D. Then fishes through gills, B, while birds or reptiles through lungs, that is C. Let's go to our NCERT, the new one, and see this on page number 80, 183 and 184. So here we can see earthworms use their moist cuticle, and insects have a network of tubes, that is tracheal tubes, to transport atmospheric air within the body. Special vascularized structures called gills, branchial respiration, are used by most of the aquatic arthropods and mollusks, whereas vascularized bags called lungs, pulmonary respiration, are used by the terrestrial forms for the exchange of gases. Among vertebrates, fish uses gills, whereas amphibians, reptiles, birds and mammals respire through lungs. Amphibians like frogs can respire through their moist skin, that is cutaneous respiration also. Going back to our question, so the correct sequence will be A, D, B, C. A, D, B, C given in option number 2. So, the correct answer for this question will be option number 2. Thank you. Our next question is match the following columns. Column 1 is having types of WBCs, white blood cells, and their functions are present in column 2. So if we talk about basophils, their main function is secrete histamine, serotonin. So the correct match is option number 2. Neutrophils. If we talk about neutrophils, they are phagocytes. Eosinophils are actually present in allergic reactions. So third will be the correct match. And lymphocytes provide immunity. So the correct is 4th. Let's go to our NCERT and see this. Here we can see on page number 279 that there are different types of WBCs. So neutrophils and monocytes are phagocytic cells which destroy foreign organisms entering the body. Basophils secrete histamine, serotonin, heparin, etc. and are involved in inflammatory reactions. Eosinophils resist infections and are also associated with allergic reactions, while lymphocytes are of two major types, B and T forms. Both B and T lymphocytes are responsible for immune response of the body. Let's go back to our question. So the correct sequence is 2, 1, 3, 4. That is present in option number 2nd only. So the correct answer is option number 2nd. Thank you.
Let's move on to our next question. Assertion says a symptom of acute chest pain appears when excess oxygen is reaching the heart muscle. If excess of oxygen is reaching, then why heart will we can say will experience an acute chest pain. So this is the condition when enough oxygen is not reaching the heart muscle, a condition called angina pectoris. So this is an incorrect statement. Reason says the condition of angina pectoris occurs mostly in middle-aged and elderly people. Yes, although it can occur in any men or women of any age, but most commonly it occur in middle-aged and elderly people. So this is correct reason. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 203, angina. It is also called angina pectoris. A symptom of acute chest pain appears when no enough oxygen is reaching the heart muscle. So angina can occur in men and women of any age, but it is more common among the middle-aged and elderly people. Going back to our question, so the correct answer is option number 4, that is assertion is false and reason is true. Thank you. Hello students. So moving on to our next question, given below are 4 statements A to D. Coronary artery disease is referred to as atherosclerosis, yes. The P wave of ECG represents the electrical excitation of the ventricles, no. Annulates and chordates have a closed circulatory system, yes. The cardiac output is defined as the volume of blood pumped out by each ventricle per stroke, no. Which 2 of the above statements are correct? So here we can say, let's go to our NCERT, the new one, and see all of these statements. So CAD, that is coronary artery disease, often referred to as atherosclerosis. Then if we talk about the P wave, let's see what P wave represents in the ECG. So the P wave represents the electrical excitation or depolarization of the atria, not the ventricles. Then if we talk about the circulatory system, that is of 2 types, open and close. So here we go to the 2 types of circulatory system. Open and close. So annulates and chordates have a closed type of circulatory system. And the last one was that the cardiac output. Yes, let's see the cardiac output also, and here we can see the cardiac output. So the stroke volume multiplied by the heart rate, that is number of beats per minute, gives the cardiac output. Going back to our question, so the correct statements are A and C, and the correct answer for this question is option number 2nd. Thank you. Let's move on to our next question. Match the column 1 with column 2nd. Column 1 is having some of the different type of excretory organs, and column 2nd is having their examples. So let's see. Protonephridia. If we talk about protonephridia, so let's go to our NCERT on page number 206. So here we can see protonephridia, also known as flame cells, are the excretory structures in platyhelminthes, which are also known as or commonly known as flatworms. Example: planaria, rotifers, some annelids and the cephalochordate like Amphioxus. So protonephridia are primarily concerned with ionic and fluid volume, that is regulation, that is osmoregulation. So protonephridia are present in organisms like planaria. So the correct match will be second. Nephridia. Let's talk about the nephridia. So here we can say these are the tubular excretory structures of earthworms and other annelids. Nephridia help to remove nitrogenous waste and maintain a fluid and ionic balance. Going back to our question, so fourth will be the correct match. And then let's see Malpighian tubules. If we talk about Malpighian tubules, so are the excretory structures of most of the insects including cockroaches, and they help in the removal of nitrogenous waste and osmoregulation. So the correct match will be option number third. And finally, antennal glands, also known as green glands, perform the excretory functions in crustaceans like prawns. Going back to our question, so the correct match will be first. So 2, 4, 3, 1 is the correct sequence given in option number 4th. So the correct answer for this question will be option number 4th. Thank you. Coming on to our next question. In given figure of Malpighian body, identify A, B, C and D. Choose option which correctly represents A, B, C and D. So here we can see this is the diagram of Malpighian body. A is representing afferent arteriole, which is actually taking the blood inside the Bowman's capsule, and D is representing the arteriole which is taking blood outside this Malpighian body. So this is efferent arteriole, this is your Bowman's capsule. So B is actually Bowman's capsule, and while this is PCT, that is proximal convoluted tubule. Let's go to our NCERT and see all these structures in this diagram of Malpighian body, that is also known as renal corpuscle or cells. So here we can see this is afferent arteriole. So this afferent arteriole is taking blood inside the Malpighian body or inside the Bowman's capsule. This is efferent arteriole which is taking blood outside the Bowman's body, and then this is Bowman's capsule, and this is PCT, that is proximal convoluted tubule. So let's go back to our question. So the correct match is afferent, then Bowman's, then PCT and then efferent. So afferent, then Bowman's, then PCT and then efferent. So the correct answer for this question will be option number 2nd. Thank you. Hello students, so let's see our next question, that is statement 1 says the ascending limb of Henle's loop is impermeable to water but allows transport of electrolytes only actively. Not only actively, but it can be actively or passively. So this statement is incorrect. Let's go to our NCERT and see this statement on page number 209 of our new NCERT, that the ascending limb is impermeable to water but allows transport of electrolytes actively or passively. Going back to our question, statement 2nd says the concentrated filtrate pass upward, it gets diluted due to the passage of electrolytes to the medullary fluid. This is a correct statement. Let's go back to our NCERT and see this statement on same page, that therefore, as the concentrated filtrate pass upward, it gets diluted due to the passage of electrolytes to the medullary fluid. Going back to our question, so here we can say that the statement 1 is incorrect, but statement 2 is correct. So the correct answer for this question will be option number 3rd. Thank you. Our next question is, the contraction of muscle fibers occur by the sliding of thin filaments over the thick filaments. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 306, that mechanism of muscle contraction is best explained by the sliding filament theory, which states that contraction of a muscle fiber takes place by the sliding of the thin filaments over the thick filaments. Going back to our question, so the correct answer for this question is option number 1. Thank you. Our next question is, gout is the inflammation of joints due to accumulation of which of these following? So that is uric acid crystals. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 312, that there are some disorders of muscular and skeletal system which includes gout also. Inflammation of joints occur in this disease due to accumulation of uric acid crystals in them. Let's go back to our question. So the correct answer for this question is option number 3rd. Thank you. Let's move on to our next question. Read the following statements and find out the incorrect statements. So let's see. Each actin or thin filament is made up of 2 G or globular actins helically wound to each other. Not G, but the F actins. So this is a wrong statement. Each G actin is a polymer of monomeric F actins. No. Each F actin is a polymer of monomeric G, that is globular actins. So this is also incorrect. 2 filaments of another protein, troponin, also run close to the F actin throughout its length. This is not troponin, this is tropomyosin. So this is also incorrect. In the resting state, a subunit of troponin masks the active binding sites for myosin on the actin filaments. Yes, exactly. Each meromyosin has 2 parts, a globular head with a short arm, also known as heavy meromyosin, and a tail, that is also known as light meromyosin. Yes, exactly. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 221, that structure of contractile protein. So here we can see that each actin, or also known as thin filament, is made up of 2 F or filamentous actins helically wound to each other, and each F actin in turn is a polymer of monomeric G or globular actins. 2 filaments of another protein, that is tropomyosin, also run close to the F actins throughout its length. Now here we can see that in the resting state, a subunit of troponin masks the active binding sites for myosin on the actin filaments. So each myosin or thick filament is also a polymerized protein. Many monomeric proteins called meromyosins constitute one thick filament. Each meromyosin has 2 important parts, a globular head with a short arm and a tail. So the former, that is globular head, being called the heavy meromyosin HMM, and the later the light meromyosin or LMM. Going back to our question, so here we can say that the incorrect statements are A, B and C. So the correct answer for this question will be option number 1. Thank you. Hello everyone. So let's see our next question. Read the following statements. A single U-shaped bone called hyoid is present at the base of the buccal cavity, and it is also included in the skull. So this is a correct statement. Second statement says pectoral and pelvic girdle bones help in the articulation of the lower and the upper limbs respectively with the axial skeleton. So this lower should be upper while this upper should be lower. Then it will be a correct statement. So it is an incorrect statement. Then the 2 halves of the pelvic girdle meet dorsally to form the pubic symphysis. Not dorsally, but it is ventrally. So it is also an incorrect statement. Axial skeleton comprises 80 bones distributed along the main axis of the body. Yes, it is a correct statement. Let's go to our NCERT to check all these statements. So here we can see that pectoral girdle, if we talk about pectoral and pelvic girdle bones help in the articulation of the upper and the lower limbs respectively. That means pectoral with upper and pelvic with lower limbs with the axial skeleton. If we talk about the second statement, that was incorrect. The 2 halves of the pelvic girdle meet ventrally to form the pubic symphysis containing fibrous cartilage. And if we talk about axial skeleton, so here we can see the axial skeleton. The bones of the limbs along with the girdles constitute the appendicular skeleton, and each limb is made of 30 bones. Here we can see. And if we talk about the axial skeleton, so here we go to the axial skeleton. Now here we can see the axial skeleton. The axial skeleton comprises 80 bones distributed along the main axis of the body. If we talk about the hyoid, a single U-shaped bone called hyoid is present at the base of the buccal cavity and it is also included in the skull. Going back to our question, so here we can say A and D are the correct statements. So the correct answer for this question will be option number 4th. Thank you. Our next question is, the midbrain is located between thalamus or hypothalamus and pons. Let's go to our NCERT for this question, and here we can see on page number 321 that midbrain is located between the thalamus or hypothalamus of the forebrain and pons of the hindbrain. Let's go back to our question. So the correct answer for this question is option number 2nd. Thank you. Let's move on to our next question. Which statement is incorrect for midbrain? Its dorsal portion consists mainly of 4 round swellings called corpora quadrigemina. So it is a correct statement about midbrain. It forms brainstem along with hindbrain. Yes, exactly. It is located between the thalamus or hypothalamus of the forebrain and pons of the hindbrain. Yes, exactly. Right ventricle is present in this part of the brain. No, not at all. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 321 that midbrain is located between the thalamus or hypothalamus of the forebrain and pons of the hindbrain. A canal called the cerebral aqueduct passes through the midbrain. The dorsal portion of the midbrain consists mainly of 4 round swellings or lobes called corpora quadrigemina. Midbrain and hindbrain form the brainstem. Let's go back to our question. So the correct answer for this question is option number 4th. Thank you. Let's see our next question. Which parts of the human brain are responsible for controlling thermoregulation, that is body temperature, regulation, and respiration respectively. So if we talk about body temperature regulation or thermoregulation, so hypothalamus is the part of brain which is responsible for this regulation, and if we talk about the respiration, so the part of hindbrain, that is medulla oblongata, is responsible for controlling respiration. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number. Here we can see on page number 236 that first of all hypothalamus. So another very important part of the brain called hypothalamus lies at the base of the thalamus. The hypothalamus contains a number of centers which control body temperature, urge for eating and drinking. Next is hindbrain. So hindbrain is the last part, and here we can see that the medulla contains centers which control respiration, cardiovascular reflexes and gastric secretions. Going back to our question, so the correct answer for this question is option number 3rd. Thank you. Let's move on to our next question. Which of the following represents the action of insulin? Increases blood glucose? No. Increases blood glucose? No. Decreases blood glucose levels of forming glycogen. So let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 337 and 38. Insulin acts mainly on hepatocytes and adipocyte cells of adipose tissue and enhance cellular glucose uptake and utilization. As a result, there is a rapid movement of glucose from blood to hepatocytes and adipocytes, resulting in decreased blood glucose level, that is hypoglycemia. Let's go back to our question. So the correct answer for this question is option number 3rd. Thank you. Let's see our next question. Why do some hormones, first messenger, need to trigger a second messenger to activate a target cell? Because the first messenger cannot cross a plasma membrane, and that's why this mechanism occurs. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 340 that hormones which interact with membrane-bound receptors normally do not enter the target cell but generate second messengers like cyclic AMP, CAMP, IP3, calcium ions, which in turn regulate cellular metabolism. Hormones which interact with intracellular receptors like steroid hormones, iodothyronins etc. mostly regulate gene expression or chromosome function by the interaction of hormone receptor complex with the genome. Going back to our question, so the correct answer for this question is option number 2. Thank you. Coming on to our next question, Graves' disease is caused due to hypersecretion of thyroid gland. So, let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 335, that exophthalmic goiter is a form of hyperthyroidism characterized by enlargement of the thyroid gland, protrusion of the eyeballs, increased basal metabolic rate and weight loss, also called Graves' disease. And this is actually occur when, due to cancer of the thyroid gland or due to development of nodules of the thyroid glands, the rate of synthesis and secretion of thyroid hormones is increased to abnormal high levels, leading to a condition called hyperthyroidism, which adversely affects the body physiology. Let's go back to our question. So the correct answer for this question is option number 4. Thank you. Our next question is, in a fertilized embryo sac, that is after fertilization, the haploid, that is N, diploid 2N and triploid, that is 3N, structures are. So if we talk about diploid structure, that will be sure zygote. Then triploid structure will be pen, that is primary endosperm nucleus. So we got the answer. And synergids are haploid structures present in a fertilized embryo sac. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 34, that is the central cell after triple fusion becomes the primary endosperm cell, that is PEC, and develops into the endosperm, while the zygote develops into an embryo. If we talk about their ploidy, so the fusion of two male and female gametes results in the formation of a diploid cell, that is the zygote, and the other male gamete moves towards the two polar nuclei located in the central cell and fuses with them to produce a triploid primary endosperm nucleus, that is pen. Going back to our question, so the correct answer for this question will be option number 1. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question, and question here is, if both male and female flowers are present on the same plant such as castor and maize, option number 1, it prevents autogamy but not getonogamy. Option number 2, it prevents getonogamy but not autogamy. Option number 3, it allows both getonogamy and autogamy. And option number 4, it allows genogamy but not getonogamy. So which is the correct one? We know that student, if both male and female flowers are present on the same plant, then it prevents, such as castor and in maize, it prevents autogamy. It prevents autogamy but not getonogamy. But not getonogamy. And the reference of this question comes, student, it comes from the NCERT textbook page number 15. So student, here we come to NCERT page number 15 for the reference of the question. So here we come to the upper side of this page, and here it is mentioned, here it is mentioned, student, if both male and female flowers are present on the same plant such as castor and maize, that is monoecious, it prevents autogamy but not getonogamy. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student, it is option number 1. Thank you.
Moving on to our next question, assertion says, in a microsporangium, so microsporangium is the sporangium, and it is where male spores are produced, which are known as microspores. Microspores, and this is present inside the anther. So in microsporangium, the tapetal cells, so we have 4, we can say, wall layers, and the innermost one is tapetum, whose cells are known as tapetal cells, possess little cytoplasm? No, they possess dense cytoplasm and generally have a single, not single, but more than one prominent nucleus. So this assertion is incorrect. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 5th, that the innermost wall layer is the tapetum. It nourishes the developing pollen grains. Cells of the tapetum possess dense cytoplasm and generally have more than one nucleus. So they are multinucleated or binucleated. During microsporogenesis, that is, genesis means formation. So formation of microspores, that is known as microsporogenesis. The microspore mother cells, that is the cell which is undergoing meiotic division to produce microspores, is known as microspore mother cells or pollen mother cells, undergo meiotic divisions to produce haploid microspore tetrad. Yes, exactly. What happens that one microspore mother cell undergo meiosis I and II, and after complete meiotic division, it will give rise to 4 haploid microspore, that is known as microspore tetrad. These are all haploid, while this microspore mother cell was diploid. So here we can say that reason is correct but assertion is false. Let's go to our NCERT back, and here we can say that as the anther develops, the cells of the sporogenous tissue undergo meiotic divisions to form microspore tetrads. So here we can see that each one is a potential pollen or microspore mother cell. The process of formation of microspores from a pollen mother cell through meiosis is called microsporogenesis. Going back to our question, so the correct answer is that assertion is false but reason is true. That is option number 4th. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question, and question here is, read the following statements and find out the incorrect statements. Here, now statement A, embryo development precedes endosperm development. B, though the seeds differ greatly, the early stages of embryo development, embryogeny, are similar in both monocotyledons and dicotyledons. C, a typical dicotyledonous embryo consists of an embryonal axis and 2 cotyledons. D, endosperm may either be consumed completely by the developing embryo, example castor and coconut, before seed maturation, or it may persist in the mature seed, example wheat, rice, maize, pea, groundnut and beans. E, the coconut water from tender coconut is cellular endosperm and the surrounding white candle is the nuclear endosperm. Options are option number 1 A, B and C, option number 2 B, C and D, option number 3 C, D and E, and option number 4 A, D and E. So which is the correct one? Now come to statement A, embryo development precedes endosperm development. It is incorrect student, because it is not embryo development, it is endosperm development which precedes embryo development. That's why statement A here is incorrect. Though the seeds differ greatly, the early stages of embryo development, embryogeny are similar in, it is clear student that embryogeny is similar, it is in both monocotyledonous and dicotyledonous. It is correct. A typical dicotyledonous embryo, we know that a typical dicotyledonous embryo, it is consists of embryonal axis and 2 cotyledons. It is also being correct. Endosperm may either be completely consumed by the developing embryo. It is not in castor and coconut student. It is wheat, rice, maize. It is wheat, rice, maize. It is not. And it may persist in mature seed. It is not wheat, rice, maize student. It is castor and coconut. It is castor and coconut. That's why it is incorrect student. Now the coconut water from tender coconut is cellular endosperm. It is not cellular endosperm student. It is nuclear endosperm, and the surrounding white candle is the nuclear. It is not nuclear student. It is cellular endosperm. That's why E is also being incorrect, as we have to find out the incorrect statement. So A, D and E is incorrect. Here we find the correct answer A, D and E. The reference of this question student comes from the NCERT page number 18. Here it is mentioned here it is mentioned endosperm development precedes embryo development. And if we come to the next page, student, page number 19, here it is also mentioned that the coconut water from tender coconut that you are familiar with is nothing but free nuclear endosperms, and the surrounding white kernel is cellular endosperm. Here it is mentioned. And if we come down to the next point, here it is mentioned endosperm may be completely consumed by the developing embryo, example pea groundnut beans, before seed maturation, or it may persist in the mature seed, example castor and coconut, and be used during seed germination. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student, it is option number 4. Thank you.
Let's move on to our next question. Urethral meatus refers to the external opening of the urinogenital duct which is found in human male. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 43. The urethra, which carries urine, originates from the urinary bladder and extends through the penis to its external opening called urethral meatus. Let's go back to our question. So the correct answer for this question is option number 3. Thank you. Let's see our next question. Which of the following cells during gametogenesis is normally diploid? So, during gametogenesis is the formation of gametes, and during this process, if we are talking about the male gametes, so here we can see on page number 49 that spermatogonia is the diploid cell. Then if we talk about primary spermatocytes are also diploid cells, but in primary spermatocytes, first meiotic division occurs, and after this division, secondary spermatocytes are the cells which are formed and they are haploid. So from this stage, all the cells further coming on will be haploid in nature or in ploidy. So only cells which are diploid are spermatogonia and primary spermatocytes. Let's go back to our question. So here we can see primary spermatocytes are not being given, only spermatogonia has been given here. So the correct answer for this question is option number 2. Thank you.
Hello students, let's see this question, and the question says, in humans, fertilization normally take place at isthmic region, ampullary region, infundibular region and the cervical region. Now, let's understand this question. So, the question is asking about where the fertilization take place. Alright, the question is asking about where the fertilization take place. So, fallopian tube is divided into 3 parts. Alright, there are 3 parts of the fallopian tube. The part which is closest to ovary, the part which is closest to ovary is infundibular region. Alright, and infundibular region has a finger-like projection that are known as fimbriae, and the function of fimbriae is to receive the ova after ovulation. The second part is the wider part, and the wider part is ampulla. Alright, the wider part is known as ampulla, and ampulla is the site of fertilization. Alright, ampulla is the site of the fertilization, and the part of fallopian tube which is farthest from ovary. The part which is farthest from ovary is known as isthmus, and isthmus has the narrow lumen and it is connected to the uterus. So the fertilization take place at the wider part, ampullary region. Now let's understand the correct answer of this question from your NCERT as well. So here on the page number 35, you will get to know the correct answer of this question. During coitus, semen is released from the penis into the vagina, that is known as insemination, and these motile sperms swim rapidly, passes through the cervix, enter into the uterus, and then finally reaches the ampullary region of the fallopian tube, and the ovum released from the ovary is also transported to the ampullary region where the fertilization take place. Alright, now you can understand this question from better diagram. So here you can see. Now let's try to understand the correct answer of this question with the help of a diagram also from the diagrammatic view of the fallopian tube. So from here sperms enter into the, cross the cervix, enter into the uterus and reaches to the ampullary region of the fallopian tube, and fimbriae also helps in the collection of the ovum after ovulation, and ova is also released to the ampulla region, and here fertilization take place. So the correct answer of this question is option number 2. I hope you understood this question very well. Best of luck. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Let's move on to our next question. Read the following statements and find out the incorrect statements. So let's see. Each testicular lobule contains 1 to 3 highly coiled seminiferous tubules in which sperm are produced. Yes, exactly. Each seminiferous tubule is lined on its inside by 2 types of cells called Leydig cells and Sertoli cells. No, it's not Leydig cells, but it is germ cells. The region outside the seminiferous tubules called interstitial space contain small blood vessels and male germ cells, spermatogonia, which lead to sperm formation. No. In testes, immunologically competent cells are also present. Yes. The seminiferous tubules of the testes open into the rete testes through vasa efferentia. No. Let's go to our NCERT, the new one, and see all these statements on page number 27 first of all. So let's see testicular lobules. Each testis has about 250 compartments called testicular lobules, and each lobule contains 1 to 3 highly coiled seminiferous tubules in which sperms are produced. Now, each seminiferous tubule is lined on its inside by 2 types of cells called male germ cells and Sertoli cells. The male germ cells undergo meiotic division, finally leading to sperm formation. Now, the region outside the seminiferous tubules called interstitial spaces contains small blood vessels and interstitial cells or Leydig cells. Now, we can say that other immunologically competent cells are also present, and here we go. The seminiferous tubules of the testes open into the vasa efferentia through rete testes. Going back to our question, so here we can say that A, B, C and E are incorrect statements. So the correct answer for this question will be option number 4. Thank you. Let's move on to our next question. There are various contraceptive methods to prevent conception and thereby population explosion. Mention any 4 properties of an ideal contraceptive. So that should be user friendly, easily available, reversible and no or least side effects. So these are the 4 properties of an ideal contraceptive. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 59, that an ideal contraceptive should be user friendly, easily available, effective and reversible with no or least side effects. It also should in no way interfere with the sexual drive, desire and or the sexual act of the user. So let's go back to our question. So the correct answer for this question is option number 1. Thank you. Let's see our next question. The technique called gamete intrafallopian transfer, that is GIFT, is recommended for those females who cannot produce an ovum. Let's go back to our NCERT and see this on page number 64, that what is GIFT? Transfer of an ovum collected from a donor into the fallopian tube, that is GIFT, of another female who cannot produce ovum. That is, one is ovum but can provide suitable environment for fertilization, and further development is another method attempted in case of infertility. Let's go back to our question. So the correct answer for this question is option number 2. Thank you. Let's move on to our next question. Statement 1 says hormone containing intrauterine contraceptive devices, that is IUCDs, are actually intrauterine type of contraceptive devices which are placed inside the uterus. So these devices are inserted by doctors or expert nurses in the uterus through vagina, given on page number 44. And these intrauterine devices are presently available as the non-medicated IUDs, then we can say copper releasing IUDs and the hormone releasing IUDs. Going back to our question, so hormone containing intrauterine contraceptive devices are not very effective contraceptive methods in comparison to barrier method. No, these are very effective. Statement 2 says IUCDs don't prevent the entry of sperm into the uterus. Yes, they don't prevent the entry of the sperm into the uterus. This is correct. Let's go back to our, we can say, NCERT, and here we can say that IUDs increase phagocytosis of sperms within the uterus, and copper ions released suppress sperm motility and the fertilizing capacity of sperms, but they do not prevent the entry of the sperms. The hormone releasing IUDs in addition make the uterus unsuitable for implantation and the cervix hostile to the sperms. So IUDs are ideal contraceptives for the females who want to delay pregnancy and or space children. It is one of the most widely accepted methods of contraception in India. Let's go back to our question. So here we can say that statement 1 is incorrect but statement 2 is correct. So the correct answer for this question will be option number 3. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, hemophilia is a genetic disorder in which? Option number 1, blood clots in blood vessels. Option number 2, there is delay coagulation of blood. Option number 3, blood fails to coagulate. Option number 4, blood cell count falls. So which option here is the correct one if you are talking about the genetic disorder which is hemophilia? So we know that student, what will happen in hemophilia? So in hemophilia, there is delay in coagulation of blood due to this a simple cut cause a non-stop bleeding. And the reference of this question, student, come from the NCERT page number 90 from the topic hemophilia. So here we come to the topic hemophilia, and here it is mentioned, student, in hemophilia what will happen in hemophilia. In this disease, a single cell protein that is part of the cascade of proteins involved in the clotting of blood is affected. Here it is mentioned. Due to this, an affected individual, a simple cut will result in non-stop bleeding. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find correct answer, student. It is option number 2. Thank you. Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, point mutation involves option number 1 deletion, option number 2 insertion, option number 3 duplication, and option number 4 change in single base pair. So which option here is the correct one? We know that, student, point mutation, it is due to the point mutation is due to the changes in single base pair of DNA. Single base pair of DNA. And the reference of this question come, student, it come from the NCERT page number 88. So student, here we come to the NCERT page number 88, where it is mentioned that, here it is mentioned, student, that mutation also arise due to change in single base pair of DNA. This is known as point mutation. Clear? A classical example of such a mutation, it is sickle cell anemia. Correct, student? So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find correct answer, student. It is option number 4. Thank you. Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, all the given traits of a pea plant can express themselves in heterozygous conditions except option number 1 inflated pod shape, option number 2 green pod color, option number 3 axial flower position, and option number 4 green seed color. So which is the correct one? Now student, if you are talking about the traits which are given in the options, we know that there will be two types. It is dominant and another is the recessive. And we know that student, what will happen in heterozygous conditions, dominant allele and recessive allele together are present, so it is heterozygous condition. Out of these two alleles, only the dominant allele express their effect, while the recessive alleles should remain hidden. So in heterozygous condition, dominant will be effect, dominant allele will show their effect. So inflated pod shape is inflated pod shape, it is dominant trait. Green pod color, it is also dominant trait. And axial flower position, it is also axial flower position, it is also dominant trait. While the green seed color is the recessive trait. So this trait doesn't express themselves in heterozygous condition. And the reference of this question, student, it is given in NCERT page number 55. So student, here we come to NCERT page number 55, and here table is given, and here it is mentioned, student, that flower position axial, it is the dominant trait. Pod shape inflated, it is the dominant trait. Pod color green is the dominant trait, while the seed color, it is yellow, it is the dominant trait. While the green is the recessive, yellow is the yellow pod color is the recessive character, pod shape constricted is the recessive, flower position terminal is the recessive traits. So student, come to the question for the answer, and here the correct answer, student, for this question, student, it is option number 4. Thank you.
Hello students, let's take a look at this question. What is not true about RNA? It acts as genetic material in some viruses. Second, in some cases it acts as a catalytic molecule. Third, it also plays an important role in metabolism. Fourth, it is evolved from DNA. Let's take a look in our NCERT regarding this. The first statement is it acts as genetic material in viruses. RNA through is also acts as genetic material in some viruses. In our introduction, we have this statement on page number 79. Then let's move to other statements. Let's see. In 5.3 in RNA world, let's see some statements regarding RNA. RNA was the first genetic material. There is not enough evidence to suggest that there is essential life processes such as metabolism, translation, splicing, etc. evolved around RNA. RNA used to act as a genetic material as well that we have seen now in the viruses also it is acting as genetic material as well as catalyst. These are some important biochemical reaction in living system that are catalyzed by RNA catalyst and not by protein enzyme. But RNA being a catalyst was reactive and hence unstable. Therefore, DNA has evolved from RNA. DNA has evolved from RNA with chemical modifications that make it more stable. Let's take a look in our question. We have it acts as genetic material in some virus. This is correct. In some cases it acts as catalytic molecule. This is also correct. It also plays an important role in metabolism. That is also correct. Then we have it is evolved from DNA. No, DNA is evolved from RNA. This is incorrect. So the incorrect or not true statement will be statement number 4. Thank you.
Let's move on to our next question. In Morgan's experiment on Drosophila, so Morgan did his experiments on Drosophila melanogaster, a fruit fly. It was found that parental type combinations for body color, eye color and wing size was much more than recombinant types. So as expected, Morgan was expecting during his experiment that the results will be same or similar to the Mendel's experiment result. That was a dihybrid experiment and a dihybrid type of cross. So he was expecting the results similar to those of Mendel's experiment, but they didn't come as such or similar to Mendel's experiment results, and that was a shock to him. So what was the result of his experiment? That the parental combination ratio was much higher than the recombinant types. So this gives the conclusion that the responsible alleles are autosomal. No, there is no such connection between the result and the alleles to be autosomal. The responsible alleles are present on the same chromosome. Yes, exactly. So this gives the conclusion that the parental combination ratio was or percentage was much higher than the recombinant types, and this gave this conclusion that the responsible alleles for two different characters were present on the same chromosome and they were physically associated or linked to each other, and that's why Morgan named this physical association of two genes present on the same chromosome as linkage. Going to our NCERT on page number 67, and here we can see that Morgan and his group knew that the genes were located on the X chromosome and saw quickly that when the two genes in a dihybrid cross were situated on the same chromosome, the proportion of parental gene combinations were much higher than the non-parental type, that is the recombinant type. Morgan attributed this due to the physical association or linkage of the two genes and coined the term linkage to describe this physical association of genes on a chromosome, and the term recombination to describe the generation of non-parental gene combinations. Going back to our question, so the correct answer for this question is option number 2. Thank you. Let's move on to our next question. Statement 1 says Sutton united the knowledge of chromosome segregation with Mendelian principles and called it the chromosomal theory of inheritance. Yes, exactly. So Sutton and Boveri were the ones or were the scientists who gave chromosomal theory of inheritance. Chromosomal theory of inheritance. Then statement 2 says genes segregate at the time of gamete formation such that only one of each pair is transmitted to a gamete. Yes, exactly. And this was proved by Mendel in his law of segregation law. So let's see our NCERT for these two statements, and here we can see that Walter Sutton and Theodore Boveri noted that the behavior of chromosomes was parallel to the behavior of genes and used chromosome movement to explain Mendel's laws. So they united this knowledge with the Mendel principles, and here we can say that segregate at the time of gamete formation such that only one of each pair is transmitted to a gamete. This was true about chromosome also and for about genes also. Let's go back to our question. So here given both the statements are correct, so the correct answer for this question is option number 1. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, complete the central dogma of molecular basis of inheritance by Crick. Here the figure is given in which A is given, DNA, B is given and C is given, and we have to identify the parts which is labeled as A, B, C. Now option number 1, A replication, B transcription, C translation. Option number 2, A replication, B termination, C translation. Option number 3, A replication, B translocation, C translation. And option number 4, A, replication, B, transposition, C, translation. So which option here is the correct one if we are talking about the central dogma of molecular basis of inheritance? So student, here we are talking about the central dogma. What will happen in central dogma, student? We know that DNA to DNA. So the process by which DNA makes their own copy, it is called replication. DNA makes their own copy. DNA makes their own copy. It is called replication. Clear, student? So what will happen? Here we can see that DNA can make their own copy. So A will represent, student, it will represent the replication. Now DNA to mRNA, DNA to RNA, or we can say mRNA. That process here B is called transcription. B is transcription, student, in which mRNA is formed or RNA is formed from the DNA. It is called transcription. Now mRNA is changed to messenger RNA. It is changed to protein. mRNA is changed to protein, and it is C. Here C is called translation. Here C is called translation, in which RNA is changed into protein. It is translation. So A is replication. Replication in 1, 2, 3 and 4. All in 4 option, A is replication. B is transcription. So B is transcription in only 1. And C is translation, student. So C here is translation. We get our answer. But before this, come to the NCERT page number 98 for the reference of this question, student. Here it is mentioned central dogma, student. Here it is mentioned. Student, that very soon Francis Crick proposed the central dogma in molecular biology, which states that the genetic information flows from DNA to RNA and RNA to protein. And here is chart is given. Here A which is asked in question, it is replication. B which is asked in question, it is transcription. And C which is asked in question, it is translation. And this one is the figure which asked in question. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find correct answer, student. It is option number 1. Thank you. Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, the structures in chromatin seen as beads on a string when viewed under the electron microscope are called. Option number 1, nucleotides. Option number 2, nucleosides. Option number 3, histone octamers. And option number 4, nucleosomes. So which option here is the correct one? We know that, student, the nucleosome in chromatins, the nucleosomes in chromatin seen as beads on a string when viewed under the microscope or under the electron microscope. And the reference of this question, student, it come from the NCERT page number 99. So here we come to the NCERT page number 99, student, and here our topic, here it is mentioned that the nucleosomes in chromatin are seen as beads on a string structure when viewed under electron microscope. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student. It is option number 4. Thank you. Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, choose the incorrect statement about Human Genome Project (HGP). Option number 1, commonly used host for cloning in HGP were PAC, plasmic artificial chromosome, and GMO, genetically modified organisms. Option number 2, the alignment of sequences obtained was done by computer-based programs. Option 3, the developed sequences were annotated and were assigned to each chromosome. And option number 4, the human genome has 22 autosomes X and Y. So student, which option here is the correct one? Now here we are talking about Human Genome Project. Human Genome Project, HGP. We know that student, in Human Genome Project, commonly used host it is bacteria and yeast, and vectors are it is BAC, which stands for bacterial artificial chromosome. Bacterial artificial chromosome. And YAC, that is yeast artificial chromosome. So student, here option number 1 is incorrect, because here it is mentioned PAC, plasmic artificial chromosome, and GMO, genetically modified organism. But we know that the commonly used host for cloning in HGP, it is bacteria and yeast. That's why option number 1 is incorrect. Option number 2, the alignment of chromosome obtained was done. It is done by the computer-based program. Option 2 is correct one. Option number 3, developed sequences annotated and were assigned. It is assigned to each chromosome. Option number 3 is also being the correct one. And option number 4, the human genome has 22 autosomes X and Y. It is also being the correct one. And the reference of this question, student, come from the NCERT page number 119. So student, here we come to the NCERT page number 119 of the chapter molecular basis of inheritance. And here it is mentioned, student, that the commonly used host were bacteria and yeast, and the vectors were called as BAC, bacterial artificial chromosome, and YAC, yeast artificial chromosomes. And here it is also mentioned, student, that if you come down to the page, here it is also mentioned that alignment of these sequences was humanly not possible. Therefore, especially computer-based programs were developed. These sequences were subsequently annotated and were assigned to each chromosome. The sequence of chromosome 1 was completed only in May 2006. This was the last of the 24 human chromosomes, 22 autosomes, and X and Y. Here it is mentioned, student. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student. It is option number 1. Thank you.
Moving on to our next question, statement 1 says the DNA dependent DNA polymerase. That means we are talking about DNA polymerase, which is the main enzyme for DNA replication. So here we can see that DNA dependent DNA polymerase catalyze polymerization only in one direction, that is 5' to 3'. And this is true about this enzyme. Let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 90, that the DNA dependent DNA polymerases catalyze polymerization only in one direction, that is 5' to 3', and this creates some additional complications at the replicating fork. And what are these complications? That consequently, as a result of this feature of DNA polymerase, on one strand or one template with polarity 3' to 5', the replication is continuous, which is known as the leading strand, while on the other, the template with polarity 5' to 3', it is discontinuous, that is lagging strand. So discontinuously synthesized fragments are later joined by the enzyme that is known as DNA ligase. Going back to our question, so this statement is true. Statement second says the DNA polymerases on their own initiate the process of replication. No, this is not at all true. Why so? Because they require primer. They cannot on their own initiate the process of replication. Let's go back to our question NCERT, and we can see that the DNA polymerase on their own cannot initiate the process of replication. And also the replication does not initiate randomly at any place in DNA. So there is a definite region in E. coli DNA where the replication originates, and such regions are termed as origin of replication. So here we can see that replication cannot initiate by only single enzyme, that is DNA polymerase. So the statement second is incorrect, only statement 1 is correct. So the correct answer for this question will be option number second. Thank you. Moving on to our next question, match the column 1 and column 2 and choose the correct combination from the given options. So column 1 is having some of the organisms and column 2 is having their genome or the number of nucleotides or base pair. So bacteriophage lambda has 48,502 base pairs. Then if we talk about bacteriophage 174, it has 5,386 nucleotides. E. coli has 4.6 into 10 power 6 base pair, third. While if we talk about human cell, a diploid cell has a genome content of, we can say, 6.6 into 10 power 9 base pairs, so fourth. So 2, 1, 3, 4 is the correct sequence. Let's go to our NCERT and check this on page number 80. Here we can see that a bacteriophage known as phage 174 has 5,386 nucleotides. Bacteriophage lambda has 48,502 base pairs, that means double of this number nucleotides. E. coli has 4.6 into 10 power 6 base pair, and haploid content of human DNA is 3.3 into 10 power 9. That means a diploid will contain just double of it, that is 6.6 into 10 power 9 base pairs. So the correct answer for this question will be option number second. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question, and question here is match column 1 with column 2 and select the correct option from the given codes. Column 1A operator site, column 2 1 binding site for RNA polymerase, column 1B promoter site, column 2 2 binding site for repressor molecule, column 1C regulator gene, column 2 3 codes for protein enzyme, column 1D structural gene, column 2 4 codes for repressor molecule. Now options are student, option number 1 A2 B1 C3 D4, option number 2 A2 B1 C4 D3, and option number 3 A4 B3 C1 D2, and option number 4 A2 B3 C1 D4. So which is the correct one? Now if we come to the operator site, we know that student operator site, it will binding site for repressor molecule. That means A is matching, it is matching with 2. Now promoter site, we know that student promoter site is the binding site for RNA polymerase. That means B is matching, it is matching with 1. C regulator gene student, it codes for repressor molecule. So C is matching student, it is matching with 4, and D structural gene, it will represent 2 codes for protein or enzyme. That means 3. Now let us see which is the correct one. A is 2, it is in option 1, 2 and 4. B is 1, B is 1 in 1 and 2. C is 4, C is 4 in option number 3, and D is 3, it is in option 2. So correct answer option 2. But before this, come to the NCERT side. Here and NCERT page number 92, here it is mentioned student that the promoter is said to be located towards 5' end of the structural gene, and it is a DNA sequence that provides binding site for RNA polymerase, and it is the presence of promoter in a transcription unit. Here it is mentioned. And if we come to the page number 100, here it is also mentioned student. If we come to the page number 100, here it is mentioned student that in Lake Operon, a polycistronic gene is regulated by a common promoter and regulatory gene. Here it is mentioned, and here it is also mentioned, student, that the leak operand consists of one regulatory gene. So student, for the correct answer, come to the question side, and here we find the correct answer, student, for this question. It is option number 2. Thank you. Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, the idea of mutation was brought forth by option number 1, Hugo de Vries, who worked on evening primrose. Option number 2, Gregor Mendel, who worked on Pisum sativum. Option 3, Hardy Weinberg, who worked on allele frequencies in a population. And option number 4, Charles Darwin, who observed a wide variety of organisms during sea voyage. So which option here is the correct one? We know that, student, Hugo de Vries, while working on evening primrose, put a mutation theory. And the reference of this question, student, it come from the NCERT page number 135. So student, here we come to the NCERT page number 135, where it is mentioned that Hugo de Vries, based on his work on evening primrose, brought forth the idea of mutations. Here it is mentioned, student. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student. It is option number 1. Thank you.
Now students, match the column question. Again trick, see the options, solve it. Match the list 1 and 2. List 1, filariasis, amoebiasis, pneumonia, ringworm. Haemophilus influenzae, trichophyton, Wuchereria branchiopteris, and amoeba histolytica. Okay. Now you have to match the column. Now it comes from this question is a mixed question of diseases given in the chapter Human Health and Disease, covering chapter 145, 146, 147. So if you get back to the question, what will be the correct one? Filariasis caused by Wuchereria branchiopteris. Okay, filariasis is caused by Wuchereria species, Wuchereria branchiopteris or Wuchereria malai. Okay, Wuchereria malai. Just a minute, students. Now, then amoebiasis is caused by simple one, Ant-amoeba histolytica, and pneumonia is caused by, tell me, pneumonia is caused by Haemophilus influenzae. So final D2, trichophyton. 2 is the correct one. Thank you.
Hello students, let's see this question, and the question says match the column first and the column second and choose the correct option. Column first and the column second, and in options in the column first we have antibodies, T cells and monocytes, and options in the column second we have cell mediated immunity, humoral immunity and phagocytosis. Now let's understand this question. So this question belongs to the part immunity. We have two types of the immunity, innate immunity and the acquired immunity. Alright, innate immunity and the acquired immunity. Alright, innate immunity and the acquired immunity. Now, let's understand this. What happens in innate immunity? This is the non-specific immunity. This is the non-specific immunity. Acquired immunity is the specific immunity. Innate immunity present since birth, alright, it is present since birth, and the acquired immunity, it is acquired after birth, it is acquired during lifetime. It is acquired during lifetime. Now, what happens in innate immunity? Innate immunity is provided by the 4 barriers: the physical barrier, the physiological barrier, the cellular barrier, and the cytokine barrier. And the question is asking about the cellular barrier. Alright, in cellular barrier we have different type of cells. We have different type of leukocytes. Alright, we have polymorphonuclear leukocyte, we have monocyte, we have macrophages that helps in providing helps to fight against the infection. Alright, to fight against the pathogen. So cellular barrier, example of the cellular barrier is monocyte, macrophages, polymorphonuclear leukocyte. So here we have the monocyte. Monocyte is a type of WBC. Alright, monocyte are the granular WBC. Alright, and they are phagocytic in nature. So option number C goes with the third. Now we have acquired immunity. Acquired immunity is provided by the B lymphocyte and it is provided by the T lymphocyte. So B lymphocyte provided which type of immunity? B lymphocyte provided the antibody mediated immunity. Antibodies are present in a fluid, that's why this type of immunity is also known as the humoral immunity. Alright, the humoral immunity. Now, the T lymphocyte provided the cell mediated immunity. T lymphocyte provided the cell mediated immunity. So here the antibodies provided the antibody mediated immunity or the humoral immunity, and the T cell provided the cell mediated immunity. Now let's confirm the correct answer of this question from your NCERT as well. So this is the question belongs to the immunity portion. Alright, so this question belongs to the immunity portion. So here we on the page number 134 you have the cellular barrier. Cellular barrier, innate immunity we have 4 type of barrier: physical, physiological, cellular and cytokine. And in cellular barrier we have certain type of leukocyte for our body like polymorphonuclear leukocyte, PMNL, alright, and the monocyte and the natural killer. These are the phagocytic cell. Now the acquired immunity on the next page, that is the 135, we have acquired immunity. So here it is written that this is one of the 2 type of immunity, that is antibody mediated. The second type is called the cell mediated immunity. Alright, so humoral immune response is provided by the antibody, and it is also the antibody mediated immunity. And the second type is cell mediated immunity, and it is provided by the T lymphocyte. Now the correct answer of this question is option number A goes with the second, option number A goes with the second, B goes with the first, and C goes with the third. So the correct answer of this question is option number 4 is the correct answer. I hope you understood this question very well. Best of luck. Thank you.
Coming on to our next question, which of the following does not occur due to allergy? First of all, let's see what is allergy on page number 137. So here we can see that the exaggerated response, that is extra response, or the we can say of the immune system to certain antigens present in the environment is called allergy, and the substances to which such an immune response is produced are called allergens. So here we can say symptoms of allergic reactions like include sneezing, watery eyes, running nose, and difficulty in breathing. Let's go back to our question. So which of the following does not occur due to allergy? So hay fever occurs, asthma occurs, anaphylactic shock also occur, but Graves' disease is a kind of, we can say, hyperthyroidism type of condition where over secretion of the hormones secreted by thyroid gland occurs. So this hyperthyroidism is actually termed as Graves' disease. So we can say that the correct answer for this question is option number 3rd. Thank you. Hello everyone. Let's move on to our next question. Read the following statements and choose the option with incorrect statements only. Typhoid fever could be confirmed by Widal test, yes. Rhinoviruses infect the nose and respiratory passage but not the lungs, yes, exactly. P. malariae causes the most serious and fatal malignant malaria, no. sporozoite form of Plasmodium are stored in the stomach of female Aedes mosquito? No. Let's go to our NCERT, the new one, and see these statements on page number 131 and other pages. So here we can see that of these, malignant malaria caused by Plasmodium falciparum is the most serious one and can even be fatal. And if we talk about the sporozoites, so Plasmodium enters the human body as sporozoites, that is infectious form of this Plasmodium, through the bite of infected female Anopheles mosquito, and the parasites initially multiply within the liver cells and then attack the red blood cells, resulting in their rupture. Then we can see this Weidel test. So yes, Weidel test. A classic case in medicine, that of Mary Mellon, nicknamed Typhoid Mary, is worth mentioning here. She was a cook by profession and was a typhoid carrier who continued to spread typhoid for several years through the food she prepared. So here we can say that for typhoid we can go for the Weidel test. Going back to our question, so here C and D statements are incorrect. So the correct answer for this question will go as fourth option. Thank you. Hello dear students, let's move on to our next question, that is match the following columns and select the correct option. So column 1 is having some of the different type of, we can say, organic things that we get from different type of microbes, and column 2 is having different type of microbes from which we are obtaining these organic things. So let's see. Cyclosporin A. So cyclosporin A, let's go to our NCERT and check this on page number 153 in our new NCERT. So cyclosporin A is a bioactive molecule that is used as an immunosuppressive agent in organ transplant patients. It's produced by the fungus Trichoderma polysporum. Going back to our questions, so Trichoderma polysporum, third is the correct match. Statins, let's go back to our NCERT and see this, that statins, if we talk about, then we can say that are produced by the yeast Monoscus purpureus have been commercialized as blood cholesterol lowering agents. Going back to our questions, so that is Monoscus purpureus is the correct match. Streptokinase. Streptokinase produced by the bacterium Streptococcus and modified by genetic engineering is used as a clot buster for removing clots from the blood vessels of patients who have undergone myocardial infarction leading to heart attack. Going back to our questions, so streptokinase from Streptococcus and lactic acid, that is lactobacillus. So let's see some of the organic acids produced by some of the microbes. So lactic acid is one of them and it is obtained from Lactobacillus, a bacteria. Going back to our questions, so the correct match will be 3142 given in option number 2. So the correct answer for this question will be option number 2. Thank you. Let's see our next question. The figure below is the diagrammatic representation of the E. coli vector, that is PBR322, which we can see which one of the given options correctly identifies its certain component or components. Ori is origin of replication and it is an incorrect match. That original restriction enzyme site, no. Rop, reduced osmotic pressure, not at all. These are the proteins. Hen third, EcoR1, selectable markers, no, they are the sites where restriction endonuclease enzyme will make the cut. MPR and TET are antibiotic resistance genes. Yes, exactly, MPR is the resistance gene for antibiotic ampicillin, while TET is representing the gene which is resistance to antibiotic tetracycline. Let's go to our NCERT and see this, that antibiotic resistance genes MPR and TET which are present in the sites, we can see here, for one is in this site and another one is in this site. Let's go back to our question. So the correct answer for this question is option number 4. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Let's move on to our next question. DNA fragments are separated using gel electrophoresis. Yes, because DNA is pulled through the gel towards the negative end of the field. No.
because larger DNA fragments move faster through the gel than smaller DNA fragments, but we are not testing the speed of these fragments, so no. To identify and isolate DNA fragments, yes, exactly. Now let's go to our NCERT, the new one, and see this on page number, here we can see 168, and here is the technique, that is gel electrophoresis. So the cutting of DNA by restriction endonucleases results in the fragments of DNA. These fragments can be separated by a technique known as gel electrophoresis. Since DNA fragments are negatively charged molecules, they can be separated by forcing them to move towards the anode under an electric field through a medium or matrix. So we can say that the DNA fragments separate or resolve according to their size through sieving effect provided by the agarose gel. Going back to our question, so the correct answer for the question will be option number 3rd. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question, and question here is statement 1. If the process of replication of DNA is repeated many times, the segment of DNA can be amplified to approximately billion times. It means 1 billion copies are made. Statement 2. Such repeated amplification is achieved by the use of thermostable DNA polymerase isolated from a bacterium Thermus aquaticus, which remains active during the high temperature induced denaturation of double-stranded DNA. Now statements, option number 1, both statement 1 and 2 are correct. Option number 2, statement 1 is correct but statement 2 is incorrect. Option number 3, statement 1 is incorrect but statement 2 is correct. And option number 4, both statement 1 and 2 are incorrect. So which is the correct one? Now if you come to the statement 1, we know that if the process of replication of DNA is repeated many times, the segment of DNA can be amplified approximately billion times. It is correct one. If we come to the other statement, such repeated amplification is achieved by the use of thermostable DNA polymerase isolated from a bacterium Thermus aquaticus, which remains active during the high temperature induced denaturation of double-stranded DNA. It is also being the correct one. And the reference of this question comes, student, it comes from the NCERT textbook page number 173. So student, here we come to NCERT page number 173, and here it is mentioned, if the process of replication of DNA is repeated many times, the segment of DNA can be amplified to approximately billions times. It means 1 billion copies are made. And here it is also mentioned that such repeated amplification is achieved by the use of thermostable DNA polymerase, which is isolated from a bacterium Thermus aquaticus, which remains active during the high temperature induced denaturation of double-stranded DNA. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find both statements are correct. So here correct answer option number 1. Thank you.
Hello everyone, moving on to our next question. Which of the following statements are incorrect? Let's see. Agarose gel electrophoresis is employed to check the progression of a restriction enzyme digestion. This is correct. If we spread the transformed cells on agar plates containing ampicillin, only untransformants will grow, transformed recipient cells will die. This should be opposite, so this is incorrect. A bioreactor provides the optimal conditions for achieving the desired product by providing optimum growth conditions like temperature, pH, substrate, salts, vitamins, oxygen. This is correct. Small volume cultures yield appreciable quantities of products. No. Let's go to our NCERT and see all these statements, starting from the last one here on page number 174. Small volume cultures cannot yield appreciable quantities of products, first of all. Then a bioreactor provides the optimal conditions for achieving the desired product by providing optimum growth conditions like temperature, pH, substrate, salts, vitamins, oxygen. Now, if we talk about the other thing, that is ampicillin, or we can say transformants and non-transformants. So yes, if we spread the transformed cells on agar plates containing ampicillin only, transformants will grow. Untransformed recipient cells will die. Let's go back to our question. So here we can say the correct answer for the question will be that B and D statements are incorrect. So the option number 3rd is the correct one. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, read the following statements and select the correct option. Statement 1. Insulin consists of two short polypeptide chain A and chain B, that are linked together by disulfide bridges. Statement 2. The C peptide is present in mature insulin and is not removed during maturation. Here the options are both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct. Option number 2, statement 1 is correct but statement 2 is incorrect. Option number 3, statement 1 is incorrect but statement 2 is correct. And option number 4, both statement 1 and statement 2 are incorrect. So student, which option here is the correct one? So to get the answer, let's come to statement 1. Here statement 1 says that insulin consists of the two short polypeptide chains, and these two short polypeptide chains, it is named as chain A and chain B. Both of these chains are linked together by the disulfide bridges. That means here the statement 1 is the correct one. But if we come to the statement 2, the C peptide is present in mature insulin. But we know that, student, the C peptide is not present. Here it is mentioned is present, but we know that the C peptide is not present in mature insulin and is removed during maturation into insulin. Clear, student? Here it is mentioned, and here it is mentioned that it is not removed, but we know that it is removed during the maturation into insulin. So student, here statement 2 is incorrect. Now the reference of this question, student, it come from the NCERT page number 211. So student, here we come to the NCERT page number 211. And here it is mentioned, student, that in insulin consists of two short polypeptide chains, chain A and chain B, that are linked together by disulfide bridges. Here it is mentioned. And if we come to the next point or next statement, here it is also mentioned, student, that this C peptide is not present in mature insulin and is removed during maturation into insulin. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student. Statement 1 is correct but statement 2 is incorrect. So here we find the correct answer, option number 2. Thank you. Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, which kind of therapy was given in 1990 to a 4-year-old girl with adenosine deaminase deficiency? Here the options are option number 1, gene therapy, option number 2, chemotherapy, option number 3, immunotherapy, and option number 4, radiation therapy. So which option here is the correct one? We know that, student, the first clinical gene therapy was given in 1990 to a 4-year-old girl with ADA deficiency. ADA is adenosine deaminase deficiency, and the reference of this question, student, come from the NCERT page number 211. So student, here we come to the NCERT page number 211, where it is clearly mentioned the first clinical gene therapy was given in 1990 to a 4-year-old girl with adenosine deaminase deficiency. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, here we find the correct answer, student, it is option number 1. Thank you.
Hello dear students, let's see our next question. Match the following columns and select the correct option. Column 1 is having some of the different type of techniques, or we can say toxins. Column 2 is having their examples. So let's see, Bt toxin. that is Bacillus thuringiensis, a bacteria which produces a toxin, and it is used as an insecticide for some pests or insects. So the second one is the correct match. RNA interference is a technology where it has been used for Melidogyne in tobacco plants. So first is the correct match. Gene therapy has been used for ADA deficiency, that is adenosine deaminase deficiency. So fourth one is the correct match, and PCR is a routine test for AIDS patients. Third, let's go to our NCERT and see this on page number 179 first of all. So BT, some strains of Bacillus thuringiensis, a bacteria, produce proteins that kill certain insects such as Lepidopterans, tobacco budworm, then armyworm, coleopterans like beetles, and dipterans, flies and mosquitoes. So here we can say these crystals contain a toxic insecticidal protein. So BT is used as an insecticide. If we talk about RNA interference, so a novel strategy was adopted to prevent this infestation, which was based on the process of RNA interference, that is RNAi. Takes place in all eukaryotic organisms as a method of cellular defense. This method involves silencing of a specific mRNA due to a complementary double-stranded RNA molecule that binds to and prevents translation of the mRNA, that is silencing. So a nematode, Melidogyne incognitia, infects the roots of tobacco plants and causes a great reduction in yield. If we talk about PCR, let's see about the PCR and gene therapy. First of all, so the first clinical gene therapy was given in 1990 to a 4-year-old girl with adenosine deaminase ADA deficiency, and this enzyme is crucial for the immune system to function. If we talk about molecular diagnosis, so the applications of biotechnology there includes PCR. So recombinant DNA technology, polymerase chain reaction PCR, and enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, that is ELISA, are some of the techniques that serve the purpose of early diagnosis. For example, PCR is now routinely used to detect HIV in suspected AIDS patients. Going back to our question, so the correct sequence will be 2143 given in option number 2. So the correct answer for the question will be option number 2. Thank you. Let's see our next question. Resource partitioning is an important mechanism which promotes. So resource partitioning means when two organisms require the same type of resources, they will lead into a relationship that is known as competition, and competition is always negative for both organisms. That means both can be harmed, both can be dead, and if we divide resources in between these two organisms, so they will exist and they won't become into this relationship, that is competition, and that will be known as coexistence of both the organisms. Let's go to our NCERT and see on page number 235 that while they do not rule out the occurrence of interspecific competition in nature, they point out that species facing competition might evolve mechanisms that promote coexistence rather than exclusion. One such mechanism is resource partitioning. If two species compete for the same resource, they could avoid competition by choosing, for instance, different times for feeding or different foraging patterns. Going back to our question, so the correct answer for this question is option number 2. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Moving on to our next question. Match column 1 with column 2 and select the correct option. So let's see commensalism. In column 1 we can see different type of population interaction, and in column 2 their examples are being given. So first one is commensalism, and it is a type of interaction where one organism is getting benefited while the another one is neither getting benefit nor harm. So commensalism is a type of positive zero type of interaction, and here we can see the example of this type of interaction is actually epiphytes growing on mango. So second, mutualism, where both the organisms involved in interaction get benefited, like we can say orchid and bees relationship. So the correct match will be third. And ectoparasite, where
we can say positive and negative type of relationship. One organism will get benefited, another will get harm. So ectoparasite, like example as we can take, lies on human. So first is the correct match. Let's go to our NCERT, the new one, and see this on page number 200. First of all, parasitism. So parasites that feed on the external surface of the host organism are called ectoparasites, and an example is lice on humans and ticks on dogs. If we take another commensalism, so here we can see an orchid growing as an epiphyte on a mango branch. So in this interaction, one species benefits and the other is neither harmed nor benefited, and at last we see mutualism. So if we talk about mutualism, we can take the example of orchid and bees. Here is the example. So orchids show a bewildering diversity of floral patterns, many of which have evolved to attract the right pollinator insect, bees and bumblebees, and ensure guaranteed pollination by it. Going back to our question, so the correct match is 2, 3, 1 given in option number second. So the correct answer for this question is option number second. Thank you. Let's move on to our next question. Statement 1 says net primary productivity NPP is less than the gross primary productivity, that is GPP minus respiratory losses is equivalent to NPP. So GPP is the total production done by the producers when they use some energy, some amount of energy in their respiration or during their respiration. So GPP, that is total productivity minus the respiratory losses, will gives you the net primary productivity. So net primary productivity is obviously less than the GPP. So this is a correct statement. Statement second says net primary productivity is equal to the gross primary productivity minus the respiratory losses. Yes, exactly. Let's go to our NCERT to cross check these two terms. So what is net primary productivity? First of all, let's see that gross primary productivity of an ecosystem is the rate of production of organic matter during photosynthesis. That is, productivity at the producer level is known as total productivity. During the photosynthesis or at the producer level is known as GPP. A considerable amount of GPP is utilized by plants in respiration because every living organism respires to obtain energy and to be functional. So, gross primary productivity minus respiration losses is the net primary productivity. So let's go back to our question. So here both the statement first and second are correct. So the correct answer for this question will be option number 1. Thank you.
Now student, let us come to the next question, and question here is read the following statement regarding ecological pyramids and choose the correct answer. A. Relationship between organisms at different topic level is expressed in terms of number, biomass and energy. It is correct, student, that relationship between organisms at different topic level it is expressed in terms of number, biomass and energy. Correct one. B. Any calculation of energy content, biomass or number has to include only one group of organism. It is incorrect, student. It is not only one, it is all organism at that topic level. That's why statement B here is incorrect, because here it is mentioned only one group, but it includes all organism at that topic level. In most ecosystem, all the pyramids of number, biomass and energy are upright. It is correct one. D. The pyramid of biomass in C is generally inverted. It is also being correct one. And E. Pyramid of energy is always inverted. It is incorrect, student, because we know that pyramid of energy is always upright. It is not inverted. It is always upright and can never be inverted. So it is incorrect one. So only two statement is incorrect, that is B and E are wrong. And the reference of this question comes, student, it comes from NCERT page, textbook page number 212. So here we come to NCERT textbook page number 212, student, and 213 also. So first come to page number 212. This relationship is expressed in terms of number, biomass or energy. Here it is mentioned. And if we come to NCERT textbook page number 213, here it is also mentioned, student, that any calculation of energy content, biomass or number has to include all organism at that tropic level. Here it is mentioned. And if we come to the next point, student, here it is also mentioned in most ecosystem all the pyramids of number of energy and biomass are upright. Here it is mentioned. And here it is also mentioned, student, that the pyramid of biomass in sea is generally inverted. And if we come down, here it is also mentioned, student, that pyramid of energy is always upright, can never be inverted. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student, it is option number 3. Thank you. Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, what is common to technique given below? 1. In vitro fertilization. 2. Cryopreservation. 3. Tissue culture. Option number 1, all are in situ conservation methods. Option number 2, all are ex situ conservation methods. Option number 3, all requires modern equipment and large space. And option number 4, all methods are of conservation of extinct organisms. So which option here is the correct one? Now student, here we are talking about in vitro fertilization. In vitro fertilization. And we are talking about cryopreservation, student. Cryopreservation. And tissue culture. Tissue culture. These all are the techniques, and what is the thing common in between them? So what is common, student? It is all of this technique, student, it is ex situ conservation method. Ex situ conservation methods. So all of these methods are it should represent the ex situ conservation methods, and the reference of these questions are given in NCERT page number 267. So here we come to the ex situ conservation, and here our topic, that is ex situ conservation. In this approach, threatened animals and plants are taken out from their natural habitat and placed in a special setting where they can be protected and given special care. Here it is mentioned, student, and here it is also mentioned, student, that gametes of threatened species can be preserved in viable and fertile conditions for long periods using cryopreservation techniques. Eggs can be fertilized in vitro and plants can be propagated using the tissue culture methods. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student, it is option number 2, all are ex situ conservation method. Here correct answer option number 2. Thank you. Now student, let us come to the next question. Here the question is, when there are situations where an animal or plant is endangered or threatened and needs urgent measures to save it from extinction, which is the desirable approach? Here the options are option number 1, in situ on-site conservation, option number 2, ex situ off-site conservation, option number 3, in vivo conservation, and option number 4, in vitro conservation. So student, which option here is the correct one? We know that, student, it is ex situ conservation. Ex situ conservation. Now what is ex situ conservation, student? In this approach, threatened animals and plants are taken out from their natural habitat and placed in a special setting where they can be protected where they can be protected and given special care. The reference of this question, student, comes from the NCERT page number 267. So student, here we come to the NCERT page number 267, where our topic it is ex situ conservation. And student, here it is clearly mentioned that in this approach threatened animals and plants are taken out from their natural habit and placed in a special setting where they can be protected and given special care. Here it is mentioned. So student, for the correct answer, back to the question, and here we find the correct answer, student. It is option number 2. Thank you.